Halloween Kills is the sequel to the 2018 Halloween movie, which is also the sequel to the 1978 Halloween movie. Halloween Kills immediately picks up after the ending events of Halloween 2018, where Laurie Strode and Laurie Strode's daughter Karen and Karen's daughter Allison trap Michael Myers in this Home Alone style house with this Home Alone style trap, and they burn his body alive. But to their surprise, a group of firefighters go to stop the burning wreckage, and unfortunately, they release the psychopathic killer known as Michael Myers. And then once he gets out of that burning wreckage, he is super pissed off, and then the carnage ensues. Halloween Kills lives up to its title. There are a ton of gruesome, bloody kills in this movie. And for my money, as a Halloween fan, you watch the original 1978 movie, and it's all about the atmosphere, and it's all about Michael Myers being labeled as the boogeyman, being labeled as the shape. Is he supernatural? Is he human? What is he? He's just pure evil. And he's a methodical killer. And so, you'll see the first movie, and a lot of people think it's boring, and I thought it was boring at one point too, where you just see this guy, and he's stalking people all day, and he's hiding in the bushes, and he's hiding in the shadows, and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I look for in a Michael Myers Halloween movie, is just something that's just atmospheric, and Michael Myers is just hiding, stalking his prey. But in this, in Halloween Kills, he just goes straight for it. He doesn't play around. He's just murdering people from the very beginning all the way to the very end. And at first I was taken back by that. First I didn't enjoy all that. But just knowing the title of the movie and knowing what you're in for from watching the trailer and seeing the story progress and then hearing the score and the music and everything, it worked for me for some reason. It just worked. It felt right for this particular kind of movie. And so when the movie starts, you have firefighters going to rescue Michael. Well, they're not rescuing Michael. They're going to put out this blaze. They don't know Michael Myers is in there. So Michael Myers is hiding behind this door. The firefighter, he falls through this floor, and then he's like, okay, he's calling for backup, and then Michael Myers pops out, and he grabs his pickaxe, and then he hits the guy in the face, and he kills him. And then it's like, okay, this is what we're in for here. We're in for like a bloody gore fest. This isn't your original Halloween where it's very subtle and you don't see a lot of blood and you see a bunch of kills off screen. Like, this is really like an extremely brutal movie. So then Michael Myers comes out in this awesome shot, and he's in this burning wreckage, and then you see the fire behind him, and then he's got the pickaxe and he's getting ready, and then the firefighters are looking like, what the fuck? And then it's fucking insane. He comes down the stairs, and it's like, he's got this axe in his hand, and he's about to take all these firefighters on. And he's just killing them one at a time. He lifts the dude in the air, and then he hits this one guy in the face, and then dude gets out a saw, and he tries to cut him, and then Michael blocks it, and then cuts him in the shoulder, and all this craziness, And it's awesome. It's just the backdrop for that was amazing. The music was fantastic. The building up of the tension of like, how are these firefighters gonna take on Michael? And it was kind of silly at first, because one firefighter grabs the fire hose, and he's trying to spray Michael with it, and it's kind of hilarious when you look at it. But then thinking about it, it's like, okay, you spray someone with a fire hose, that has a very high amount of power in it, and so it should do some damage to him, but he's just walking up to the guy, and it's not even affecting him. So it's like this Michael Myers here, he goes Super Saiyan in this movie. Like, he is just like, nothing can stop him. And that's what I want in a Halloween movie. That's the reason why I didn't care for Halloween 2018 as much, is because you have this whole Sartine plot where Sartine is the one who helped Michael escape, and he lures Michael to Laurie, and so Michael Myers has a sidekick. But as a Halloween fan, I want Michael Myers to be on his own, doing his own thing. He doesn't need any assistance. So in this movie, you get that. You get Michael Myers going on his journey. You don't know what his objectives are. He's just creating carnage everywhere he goes, killing people that get in his way. And that's what I wanted in Halloween 2018, and I got that in this, even though we sacrifice him lurking in the shadows for just bloody carnage in your face. But I accepted it, because just the building of the tension from the very beginning, and that fire backdrop with the music and just the build up to him killing all of those people, was just executed so expertly well that I was immediately sucked into it, and I disregarded, like, okay, yeah, he's supposed to be lurking, but this time he's just like in the forefront, and we can see his face clearly, which, I've always been a fan of. Yeah, you can't really look at Michael, you can't really see his face, you got to show him from a distance, or hiding in the bushes, or hiding in the shadows, and then he pops out, and then you get to see him. But in this, they're like, nope, you get to see his face, his whole body, and his mask looks great. Like, Michael Myers looks cool in this movie. Just looking at him, he looks great. Like, the mask looks great. Half of his face being burnt looks great. His crispy suit looks like Michael Myers looks as cool as he's ever been in a movie. Like, this is the greatest he's looked. It looks fantastic. So we have our setup here. Michael Myers escapes. This picks up on the very same night the Halloween 2018 ended. Laurie Strode and Karen and Allison are taken to the hospital, and we jump to all of our legacy characters at a bar. They're at a bar, they're hanging out, and we are also introduced to this black couple who I think were in the 2018 Halloween movie very briefly. And we don't know anything about these people. They're just there, they're drinking, they're having a good time, they're at a talent show. And we have a legacy character, Tommy Doyle, from the first movie. I don't think it's the same actor. It's not. It's Michael C. Hall this time around. I don't know why they didn't get the same actor, but they got Tommy Doyle in here, and we remember him from the original 1978 movie as a character. And he comes up on the stage. But before we get into that, building all of these characters, like, at first we have Officer Hawkins, who was in the 2018 Halloween movie. And I thought he died in that movie. But they brought him back for this because I guess, he's a very beloved character, and I even enjoyed his performance, and I was sad that they killed him off in the previous movie. But they bring him back, and we also see Allison's boyfriend, who didn't get much of a character development in the 2018 movie, just kind of disappeared. But in this, he comes in the opening, and he's on his phone talking to his friend who got killed in the previous movie. And then he sees Officer Hawkins on the ground, and then he's like climbing over the fence, and then Officer Hawkins wakes up, and he's like, I'm the one to get him, I'm the one to kill him, and all this, I need to kill the evil, and all this stuff. Then we go back to 1978, so there's a lot of jumping around in this movie. We go back to the events of 1978, and like I said, from the very beginning, we see Michael, and he's not lurking in the shadows, he's in pure form, we see his crispy white mask. But it looks great, though. It looks great because it looks like the Michael Myers from 1978. Like how they constructed the mask and how the overall appearance of Michael looks fantastic. And then the stylistic choice that they used to present the flashback sequences were brilliant. Like, it did feel like I was watching a 1978 movie when they went back in time like that. And then so we see a young Officer Hawkins, and they're chasing down Michael, and he's like, freeze, and he shoots at him, but the bullets just go around Michael because he's supernatural. I don't care what anyone says. He's not a human being. He's supernatural. The bullets just, deflect, and they go around him, and he doesn't even get hit, and then he just disappears, and then more officers show up, and then they illustrate that in the previous movie, okay, Dr. Loomis did shoot Michael 6 times. They don't say he shot him 6 times, but they say, okay, Dr. Loomis said that he shot Michael multiple times, and now Michael's just walking around. And from what I remember, they did want to use all of this flashback sequence in the original, in their 2018 Halloween movie. But then from what I understand, I read an article where they said John Carpenter didn't want them to do that. They wanted them to just jump into the action and do their own thing. And so it does feel kind of jumbled here, where we go back in time and then we go back to the present day. And I did read a lot of reviews online where people were saying, there's too much jump cutting, and we think we're going to follow Officer Hawkins' character and his journey, but then we jump into Allison's boyfriend's journey, and then we jump into Tommy Doyle's journey and all this kind of stuff, and it's confusing because we don't have a solid main character to follow. But that didn't bother me. I was sucked into each one of these stories. But yeah, I really do wish they had used the flashback sequences in the 2018 Halloween movie. But here I feel like it works, and it establishes Hawkins as a character who could have stopped Michael. And most likely they're going to conclude that in Halloween Ends, which comes out in, about a year from now. And, that kind of sucks that they don't, wrap up everything here, because you got to get all of these stories and everything. But for me, it was entertaining. I followed everything along, and it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me that we were just jumping all over the place. But we follow Hawkins, and then Michael escapes, and we have the two officers. It was kind of bizarre to me because the psychopathic murderer is on the loose, and the Officer Hawkins is he just saw him, and you got this other a group of these officers come in, and they're like, okay, yeah, we need to catch this guy. You know, he's on the loose and all this, and then so they come up with a game plan, and they split up, and then Hawkins and this other officer just stop and have a conversation in the midst of all this chaos. But I'm it was just kind of jarring to me. I'm like, bro, you just had an action scene of like you just saw Michael, and then you have a group huddle, and then you come up with a game plan, but then you kind of disregard that and just have a conversation. I'm saying to myself during this moment, I'm saying like they need to, I don't know what's the word? They need to take this, I don't know, not more seriously, but they need to, I don't know, they need, there's not a sense of urgency at this point. It's just like they're kind of not taking it very seriously. And I feel like there should have been a bit more urgency to the situation, you know? And so, but they stop to have this conversation, and then they talk about Michael, and they give us a little bit of backstory. The one officer says, oh yeah, you know, I used to play with him because, you know, my parents felt bad, and so I would hang out with him, and he would just be staring up at his sister's window, and he'd be staring out the window, and it's like, what was he looking at, you know? Was he looking at Haddonfield, a place where nothing happens? You know, it's just a small town, and he just snapped one day and killed his sister and all this craziness. And so I like that little bit of backstory. It's like with Michael, we don't know what his deal is. We don't know what made him snap. We don't know what made him become this psychopathic serial killer. He just is, and we like the fact that he just goes on his killing spree with no rhyme or reason. And so with this, they give us that little bit of backstory of like, you know, what was he looking at? What was he staring at? What's in his mind? And all this kind of stuff. So I accepted it, even though I was like, there should be more urgency to this. But they have this conversation, and then we meet Lonnie, who was a character in the 1978 Halloween movie, who was the bully to Tommy Doyle. And then so we see Lonnie, and I like the fact that when you can watch these movies simultaneously. I love how all of these movies connect. You have 1978 Halloween, where Lonnie is the bully, right? And then you watch the 2018 Halloween, and they just mention Lonnie. You don't get to see Lonnie. But then you have Halloween Kills, where it comes back around to 1978, and the person who was the bully is the person that is getting bullied. And then then I have this thought in my head where it's like, okay, the only reason he is bullying Tommy is because other people are bullying him. So I thought that was a nice touch. So then we see Lonnie getting bullied. And, you know, you remember what happened to Lonnie when he was bullying Tommy in the Halloween 1978 film. So he's being bullied by these group of girls. And I can't remember if they steal candy from him or something, but I think they claim that he stole something from them. So then they go to get it back. And he's all scared because he's by himself and he's surrounded. So they get back what he took from them. Then this officer shows up. And, you know, the kids are playing it cool, like, oh, this is our friend Lonnie, after they were just, like, you know, harassing him. And then so the officer's like, you kids need to go home. You kids can't be out on the street tonight and all this stuff. And they're like, why? And this was the kind of scary moment where the officer was like, because there's a psychopathic murderer on the loose, and he just murdered 3 people down the street. And then the officer just drives away. And then the kids, you know, they all disband, and they're like, don't get murdered, Lonnie, and all this stuff. And then Lonnie's, like, super scared. And the atmospheric approach of this sequence is fantastic. Like I said, it feels like it's 1978. You got the 1978 police squad cars. You got the kids dressing up in the 1978 attire, and you got the kid who is not the same character as the person from, well, it's the same character, but it's not the same actor from 1978, but they replicated just enough to where I believe that this kid is that same character from the 1978 film. And then you have all the leaves on the ground, and it just feels like it's October. It feels great. The aesthetic approach is fantastic. So then now Lonnie is scared, and he's all by himself, and he's running down the street, and like I said, the atmospheric approach here is fantastic. And then he's like hearing voices in his head, and he's getting super scared. Then he trips on the ground, and then you see Michael Myers, and he's kind of lurking in the shadows, but you still see him in full frame, which I didn't mind. at first you would assume that, okay, yeah, this would be disappointing. He's supposed to be lurking in the shadows, like I said, but just seeing him in full frame like this, and then witnessing the aesthetic approach of this was fantastic. So I accepted it. I didn't have any real complaints about it other than, man, he should be lurking in the shadows. We shouldn't be seeing him in full frame, but I accepted it. So he's walking and he's approaching Lonnie, and Lonnie's all scared, like, oh my God, it's the boogeyman. And then he just disappears. And then Hawkins and the other officers show up and they're like, are you okay? And then Lonnie's like, he was here. The boogeyman was here. He's going to get me. And then he gets up and he runs away and he's like, he's going to get you and all this kind of stuff. And then the two officers just miraculously are in front of the Michael Myers house. And they're like, okay, evil's gonna go home. This is where he grew up at. So this is where he's gonna be. So then they go inside the house, and then we see the broken glass that was in the original 1978 movie where Loomis was giving his speech. And it looks like a haunted house attraction, but it looks great. It looks fantastic. They go inside the house and they're lurking around, and then we get a bunch of callbacks to the 1978 movie where we see the dead dog that Michael Myers supposedly ate in the original movie. So we see the dog, and then the broken glass, and then the officer goes upstairs and they're lurking around trying to see if they can find Michael. And then I know a lot of other people were complaining in the movie about a lot of characters in horror movies do a lot of dumb things. And in this movie, there's no exception. There's a ton of characters that do a bunch of dumb things in here. Like, the one thing that bothered me is, like I said, there's no sense of urgency here. Because it's like, okay, so the officers are looking for this murderer on the loose. They go inside his house, right? And they know he's out there somewhere. They don't know if he's at the house, but this is his house, and they assume he's there. That's why they're searching for him in the house. And so the officer, he's searching for Michael. And then he goes into the room where he murdered his sister, right? So he puts his gun down, and he's just like casually walking towards the window, and he's just looking out the window. And I'm like, bro, what the hell are you doing? You're supposed to be looking for this murderer who's on the loose, and you're just standing there staring out this window. It's like, of course there's going to be a jump scare. Of course he's going to pop out and try to attack this dude. It's obvious with the way this character is acting. So he's staring out the window, and then he gives this speech about Haddonfield, a place where nothing happens or nothing is exciting or something like that. Then boo, Michael pops out and he starts to strangle the guy, but then it still looks fantastic. Michael looks great. And then the officer, he's trying to punch Michael in the stomach. I can't remember if he tried to shoot him or something. But then Hawkins comes into the room, and then Michael, I don't know where he got the rope from, but he grabs this rope and he starts to strangle the officer. And then the officers like put him down and let him go and all this stuff. And then, I did have a little problem where the light was shining in Michael's face and you can see his eyes and his mask. But then at the same time, I was like, this scene is pretty suspenseful. I love how Michael looks. I love the filming aesthetic to this. I love the way it looks, everything. So I even though I did have some minor problems with the sequence, I did ultimately accept what I was looking at. So then Officer Hawkins accidentally shoots his partner in the neck. Then Michael just drops him, and then Michael walks away. And then the officer, Hawkins, shoots at Michael, and the bullets, they don't even hit him. It's kind of funny. The bullets don't even hit him. And then Michael starts walking down the stairs. And then Hawkins, he's still shooting at him. And the bullets don't even hit Michael. And this kind of silly, but then I'm like, it's Michael Myers. He's supernatural. Stuff like this happened in the 2018 movie. And then stuff like this happened. Did it happen in 1978? I don't remember. It's kind of funny, but then I'm like, it's Michael, I let it go. So then Michael goes down the stairs, and then Hawkins tends to his partner who's wounded. And this was a sad moment. I did feel this because, the special effects, like the effects that they used on the guy's neck with the bullet wound looked believable. And then the performance from the actor was very believable. And then Hawkins, the younger Hawkins, that actor was believable. He was crying and he's like, I'm sorry, and all this kind of stuff. And then the officer on the ground is like, did we get him? And he's like, yeah, we got him. And all. So I felt the emotional weight of that. Even though we didn't spend a whole lot of time with these characters, I still felt that moment. And they cut right there. They cut the flashback. And then after that, we jump into Tommy Doyle and his group of friends. And now what I was getting to is that, okay, you have Tommy Doyle, who used to get bullied by Lonnie, he used to be bullied by Lonnie. And so now Lonnie and Tommy are friends. So that's why I feel like the trilogy of these movies so far makes each movie, like Halloween Kills makes 2018 a richer film, and then Halloween Kills also makes the 1978 movie a richer film. because you look at the night, like I said, you look at the 1978 movie. Lonnie was bullying Tommy, and then you see Halloween Kills, where Lonnie is being bullied by other people, and then now when you see him as an adult in the present day, he and Lonnie are best friends. So he even says when he goes on stage to introduce Tommy, he says, I used to break this guy's balls back in the day. And so I thought that was a nice touch. It's like the person who was the bullier is, now friends with their friends. Like the person who used to bully that person is now best friends with that person. So I thought that was a nice touch and connecting this whole story together and making it a singular story. So Tommy comes on stage after being introduced by Lonnie, and then Tommy, who was played by Michael, what's his name? Michael Anthony Seahall, I think. He comes on stage, and I thought his performance was great. He comes on stage and he's talking about the events of the 1978 movie, and he's like, okay, introducing all the legacy characters. He introduces Nurse Marion, who was the subject of an assault by Michael in the original 1978 movie. Then he introduces Lindsay Wallace, who is the same actor from the 1978 movie, which is a nice touch. And, she and Tommy witnessed, the boogeyman's carnage in 1978. Then they introduced Lonnie, who really wasn't a character in the 1978 movie. He just showed up in a couple of scenes. He wasn't in Halloween 2018. But in this, in the flashback, they established him as a character. Now we see him as an adult. And, he saw Michael Myers, but he wasn't witness to all that carnage. So we have all of these original characters, and then Tommy talks about the events of the past. And from what I understand, there's a lot of people online who say that, okay, how did these group of characters find each other? You have Nurse Marion, who was only in one scene in the original 1978 movie, and then you don't see her after that. How is she going to be able to find Lindsay and find Tommy, and why do they still live in this small town after these events that happened 40 years ago? You would think that they would move out of that small town and move on with their lives, and they would try to distance themselves from this horrific event that happened in the past, and maybe they would get over it. But from my assumption, it's like, okay, when you have multiple people who go through some sort of tragic event, at some point in time, these people would probably reach out and try to find other people who have suffered similar experiences. So from my assumption, it's like when you see Tommy on stage, he illustrates each one of these people's experience that happened on that night in 1978. Tommy knows each one of their experiences. So I would assume that at some point, let's say Lindsay was, looking for some sort of help, and then she stumbled across Marion, who was doing the same thing, and they found each other. And then she's like, hey, there's also other people, and then they meet Tommy, and then they meet Lonnie, and then so to me it makes sense of how they found each other. They don't explain it in the movie, they just throw them in there as like, hey, remember these characters, and they don't really give them a whole lot of depth. I mean, they give more to Tommy, they give more to Lonnie. Nurse Marion doesn't really get any development here. She doesn't even get a line of dialogue here, really, except in the scene where she gets killed. But I enjoyed the fact that they brought these characters back, and they showed those flashback sequences showing what happened to them in the past, and that's what brought them all together. It would have been better if we would have had more time to develop these characters so we can learn their different experiences and how those experiences affected them and their decisions in life and how they all met each other. But, that would have added more runtime to the story, but I still would have appreciated the fact that, hey, we're taking time to really establish these characters to make you feel some sort of emotional connection to them besides, hey, remember these characters from the original movie, so that when they do get killed, you have more emotional weight that's added to their death sequence. So then it's like you see Tommy, and he introduces everybody, and Michael Anthony Seahall plays a fantastic Tommy. He was great, talking about the story on stage, getting the audience and the people of Haddonfield caught up to speed. And what I appreciated is that, okay, in the 2018 Halloween movie, they say that, okay, a guy who was wearing a mask and killed 3 or 5 people in 1978, today's standards, that's not that big of a deal. And then in this movie, in Halloween Kills, Tommy establishes that, and he says, yeah, you're either too young to give a shit about that, or you're too drunk to care. But the person who actually went through that experience has a lot of emotional connection to that. So it makes sense that you have some people who don't care about it because they didn't experience it, but then you have another group of people who did experience it and they can't let it go no matter how far in the past it happened. And so when you see Tommy, I still see that little kid who was scared of the boogeyman, and he experienced that horrific night in 1978. And you can tell just by looking in his eyes that he's still that little kid from the past who's still afraid of the boogeyman, even though he's trying to put on this brave face like, hey, I faced my fears and I'm not afraid. But you can just still see in his eyes like, yeah, man, he's still that kid from 1978, no matter how much of a mask he puts on. But he establishes everybody and the events that happened in the past. And then we skip to Laurie Strode and Allison and Karen, and they go to the hospital after the ending events of the 2018 movie where Laurie got stabbed in the stomach. You see her get surgery for her wound. They sew her up. Then you see the sheriff go to the carnage that happened at Laurie's house, and you see all the dead firefighters and stuff. And I love the sheriff in this movie. I wish he got more screen time. And then we go to another horrific sequence where we see this elderly couple. This black lady, and she's playing with her drone, and she's having a good time. Then her husband comes out, and he's drunk, and he's just like, oh, let's just eat some wine and have some cheese and stuff. And they're just hanging out, and then her drone like malfunctions, and it falls on the ground. And then, you know, the husband's like, oh, give me that thing, I know what to do. And then the drone is thrown back to them. And then, you know, at this moment in the film, it kind of felt like a stage play. Like their reactions to this moment didn't feel natural to me. Because, you know, the drone is thrown back to them. And then the husband's like, what the fuck was that? And then the wife is like, is somebody in there? And it's just like, the way it was executed just felt like a stage play. It didn't feel realistic. It didn't feel like a natural response. But I'm like, whatever, you know, I went along with it. And then so the husband goes to check out what's happening. And then, you know, it's building some suspense here. You're like, what's about to happen? You know it's Michael, but you're like, what? Is it going to be a false scare? Or is it going to be Michael? You know, what's going to happen? And then so the husband goes to the bathroom and he turns the light on. And then Michael knocks the light head out. And then the husband's like, and then you see this inserted shot of the husband. He screams. He's like, ah! And then he closes the door and he locks it. And he's like, call the police. There's a man in a monster mask in the bathroom. And then so he's running, and then Michael just bursts through the window, and he grabs the guy, and then the glass breaks, and then he like pins the guy to the glass, and the glass goes through his neck, and then the wife is screaming, and then Michael comes out, and then he, like, this whole sequence right here, to me, this the tension building and the suspenseful nature of it, I think is fantastic. And then Michael comes out. What happens? Michael comes out, and the wife is like, she's trying to go out the door, but she can't because she's cornered by Michael, and she's just like, the performance from this lady is great. She's terrified, and Michael's standing there, and then he grabs the headlight fixture, and then he smashes it, and the woman grabs a butcher knife, and they're going to have a showdown, but she's just like super scared. And then Michael starts approaching her, and it reminded me of a scene in the 2018 Halloween movie where we had that one-shot take murder sequence where Michael's like, you know, he grabs the hammer, he kills the one lady off screen, and then in the ending of that sequence, he puts the knife through the lady's neck. And my complaint about that was like, okay, it kind of took, just seeing that knife being CGI and going through that lady's neck kind of took me out of that experience. But with this, maybe it's because they had a bigger budget or they had a better special effects team or something, I don't know. But when the bulb goes through the lady's neck, it feels real. Like every time I see that, it goes right in her neck, and then you hear the glass shards moving around in there, and then Michael's like twisting it, and it's just like, I grab my own neck when that happens because it feels so real. Like the special effects team did a great job with that. The performances from the lady and James Jude Courtney, who plays Michael, and then the scenery, like the set design and all that felt fantastic. Like I felt that scene right there. So then he stabs her in the neck and he twists the glass, and then he pulls it out, and then she falls to the ground just gushing blood. Then Michael just stands there like in a trance, and you're just like, what the fuck? And then he just drops the glass on the ground, and then the sound design is fantastic too, because then you hear the bulb drop on the ground. You hear the bulb drop on the ground, and it shatters, and he's just standing there. And then the conclusion to this whole scene is mwah, it's just fantastic, because then it's so horrifying. It's like, why do we even watch scary movies, bro? Because this is like some disturbing shit. Because it's like the the director, David Gordon Green, and the cinematographer executed this to perfection. Where it's like, like I said, we don't spend a lot of time with these characters. It's just the normal horror slasher film where you establish these people very briefly in their own environment, and then their environment is disturbed by a force that they can't control. And you would, for my money, it's like, yes, I want to spend more time with these people so we can get to know them better, so that when their death does happen, there's more emotional weight added to that. But in a movie like this, you can only do so much story building with so many characters, to where some people just have to get killed off without giving them in-depth full backstory. So with these two characters, even though we didn't get to know them when we saw them in their element, which is typical, yes, it doesn't make me care that much about them. But then with the way this sequence was executed all the way towards the end, made me feel bad for these characters, because then you see this nice shot, this like one take shot of the camera of you see the lady dying, and the blood is dripping down her neck, and she's helpless, she can't move, and her eyes are wide open, so she's breathing very slowly, so you can tell she's slowly dying. And then the camera looks in her eyes, and then you see the camera pan around, and you hear this music too, like the musical cue is really eerie. Like this whole little last moment of this sequence is just absolutely eerie with the music and the way it's shot, and then the lady dying, and then the camera's panning around, and the camera pans around, and you see what she's looking at. Because first you hear all this chaotic noise in the background, you're like, what is she looking at? And so I'm like curious, and then the camera pans around, and it's very disturbing. But then this is how I want to see Michael Myers, because you see him in the background, and he's kind of blurred out of focus in the shot, so you can barely see him. And then you see her dead husband, and he's lying, I think, on his back on this table, and Michael, he's just grabbing one knife after another, and he's just constantly stabbing the guy, like he's stabbing him in the chest, then he grabs another knife, and then he stabs him again, and it's just like so horrific, because it's like, bro, the dude is already dead, and his wife is watching her husband die in front of her eyes as she's slowly dying, and Michael's just like going to town on this guy, like grabbing one knife after another, and just stabbing the guy in different places. And you're thinking multiple things. I'm thinking multiple things during that moment. Like, what is Michael's deal? Why is he doing this? Like, he's gone. Like, he's just pure evil. And it's like there's no rhyme or reason for what he's doing. And this is how I like to see Michael. But then this here really takes the cake in, like, just pure, absolute, disturbing, like, images, you know, on screen. And so, like, you know, I feel the weight of that alone, because it's so horrific, you know. So he's just like stabbing the guy, and then he grabs, you know, the last knife, and he just puts it down. He just walks away, and then that's the end of the sequence. And so that sequence right there, like, that is, I would say that is like my favorite kill sequence in the whole movie. Just the factor of how disturbing it is. So then after that, we go. This movie jumps all over the place. I'm trying to keep track of everything, but yeah, we go back to the bar. We go back to the bar, and there was this one moment that I noticed where we see Nurse Marion, and we see this black lady who is a doctor, and it seems like they just had a conversation, because they're walking from this one location where Tommy's at the bar, and he's just like really intoxicated, and he doesn't know exactly. Tommy's at the bar, and he's really intoxicated, so he's just like really drunk. And then you see Lonnie, and he's really drunk, and his son calls him, and his son tells him about what happened, and so he's like panicking. And when we see Marion and this black nurse come into the shot, I really would have wished they had some sort of dialogue between these two, where at least give Marion some sort of development, give her some sort of backstory where where they're like a bonding moment or something. You know, so because it seems like they had like the scene that was cut because like I said, these two actors or these two characters they approach the scene and it looks like they previously just had a conversation together. And so I really wish there would have been a moment where it's like, okay, Marion and this black lady are like having a conversation, and then Marion, you know, could talk about Dr. Loomis and the evil, and been like Michael, and here's why we're at the bar every night. You know, this is like our anniversary, and then they could have set up how they found each other and all this kind of stuff. So in that moment, I really wish there was a bit more character development. Because like I said, Marion, she doesn't get anything to do in this movie, really. She gets more screen time in Halloween H2O than she does in this movie, in Halloween Kills. But, you know, so we see Marion, we see the black lady, we see the black lady's husband, who's a nurse, and then, you know, you see Tommy there, and then Lonnie's there, and then that's when Lonnie gets the call about his son being, like, you know, finding the officer and being like, okay, yeah, there's something going on. And then that's when the news report pops up and it shows all of the carnage that has happened or transpired during the course of this night. Then they talk about who like the victims are in the previous movies, and they establish that, and so then that lets the people inside the bar alerted of Michael's presence, and so that's when everything kicks into high gear, where Tommy, he's been preparing for this night. He's been waiting for this night to happen. And he's ready for this night to happen. Like there's a moment where once he watches the news and witnesses that, okay, Michael's back and he's created all this carnage, the camera zooms in on his face and he just has this look on his face where it's like he's scared but he's ready to go. He's like, I gotta take charge of this. I have to do what I have to do. So then they established this baseball bat called, what is it, Huckleberry or something, that is owned by this guy who owns this bar, and it used to be his dad's and all of this stuff. And so Tommy, you know, has this amount of courage within himself, and so he grabs this baseball bat and he's like, okay, I'm ready to take on Michael. But then no, before that there's a moment where the black couple, they go out to their car, and then the car headlights turn on. And I'm thinking, okay, is Michael in the car? Because we did see him drive in the 1978 movie. So then there's like the suspense is building. So it's like the car headlights turn on, and then this classical music starts playing. Or no, oh man, I'm getting lost here. Before that, the black couple go outside, and in this moment when they go outside, the black guy, he's like, oh, I left my stethoscope in the bar, and he's like, oh, that nurse has it, or that lady has it. Oh, let me go get it. And then he throws his wife the keys. And in that moment, I'm thinking, okay, bro, you just heard what Tommy Doyle had to say about, you know, these murders back in 1978, and then you just saw the news about, okay, there's this killer on the loose, and it's the same guy. And so you're about to leave the bar, and it's dark outside, and you're just gonna leave your wife to go to the car by herself so you can get your stethoscope. So at that point, I'm like, bro, that's fucked up, bro. What are you doing? But then you can tell that he doesn't give a shit and he doesn't take it seriously, because when they see the news illustrating the events that happened in the previous two movies, his response to when he sees that kid who was in the 2018 movie who was being babysitted by this one girl, he looks at the screen and he's like, isn't that fucking kid from next door, that annoying kid from next door? So he's like disregarding all of like the serious shit that's going down. Like, so from my perspective, he's not taking the situation seriously. So that's why he just left his wife to go to the car, because he's like, I don't even care. But then it's kind of fucked up. It's like you watch the news and all this shit is going down, and you're just like, oh, you go to the car, it's okay, I'm gonna go get my stethoscope. So I was like, oh, that's fucked up. So then it's like she's going to the car by herself, and then that's when the headlights turn on and then the music plays. Then her husband comes back out with his stethoscope, and then the wife is like, there's somebody in the car, and then she's like, you go check it out. And then he's like, fuck that, I'm not going to go check it out. And so he's just standing there, and then that's when Tommy grabs the bat, and he's like, I'm gonna go take care of this. So then he puts the bat over his shoulder, and it was kind of goofy to me at first, because like I said, there's just some sequences in this movie that feel like these people are on a stage, like they're in a stage play or something, just with the way their body movements are, and then how they deliver their dialogue. Like, I know a lot of people who think this movie is terrible have this complaint of these characters feel unnatural, and then the dialogue feels unnatural because nobody talks like that. And I can see that in a couple of sequences. But then, like I said, it's just to me like when these sequences happen, I do acknowledge that, and it does feel goofy to me at first. But then the suspense and the tension is so high for me at that point where I just disregard the goofiness of it. You know, like there's a lot of goofy stuff happening here with these characters and how these sequences are executed to where it kind of does distract me and take me out of the movie. But then the tension and the suspense building is so tight to the point where I just disregard all the goofiness and I'm just immediately sucked right back in to what's happening during the scene. So yeah, Tommy's standing there with the bat over his shoulder, ready to take on Michael because he thinks Michael's in the car, and then he like strikes a pose in front of the camera, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But then in my mind, I'm thinking why he's doing this is because it's like I said, he's still that scared little kid from 1978 who's afraid of the boogeyman, and he's trying to put on this front like, yeah, man, I got this. I'm gonna take care of this. I'm not scared of nothing, you know. But he's still scared. Like, dude is sweating throughout this entire moment. So he's got the bat and he's slowly approaching the car. And the tension is fantastic here. He's slowly approaching the car. And then all of a sudden the car starts up. And then he starts hitting the car with the bat and the car drives off. And this is what made me think of Halloween 4 when Michael took out the electrical power in that movie in Halloween 4. Because then the car drives into like this electrical pole. And then all these sparks fly. And it made me think of Halloween 4 when Michael took out the power. So I was thinking they were doing that where like Michael drove the car and he crashed it, and now all the power goes out, and now all the lights are going to be off in the town and all this kind of stuff. So it's going to create this eerie experience. But no, that's not the case. It turned out to be another mental patient who we did establish in the 2018 movie, and a lot of people online make fun of this character and say he's a fat Danny DeVito. So that's what I'll call him because he shows up later. So we see this fat Danny DeVito, and he's the one who was in the car, and he crashed it into the electrical pole, and it sets all this stuff up for later. And he runs away because after he crashed it, he got out of the car and he hid behind some object. And then Tommy and the mob show up, and they're just like, oh, he's gone. And the guy escapes, and then Tommy, you know, he's got the red light on his face, so the cinematography here is great, and then the lighting is great. And he's like, you know, oh yeah, when I see Michael, yeah, it's gonna be night for you, you know. Swing old Huckleberry here, you know, it's night, Michael, you know. So he's like prepping himself up. He's like building himself up to confront the boogeyman who he was afraid of in 1978. You know, he's like building his courage up to confront this guy. So he's rocking and rolling. He's ready. So then we go back to the hospital, and you know, it's just a bunch of chaos. Like we have Laurie, and she's in there, and then Hawkins, you know, him being previously injured, he shows up. And, you know, they have this nice moment, this very touching moment where Laurie and Hawkins, you know, Laurie's like, oh, yeah, you know, I've always liked you and this kind of stuff. And it's very touching, you know, the music playing. And I liked... It was a very touching moment. Like, I liked just the performance from Laurie. I like the performance from Hawkins here and the music playing. You know, it was great. I enjoyed that entire experience because in Hawkins, you know, he turns around and he's like acknowledging what Laurie is saying. And he's like, you know, I thought you always had the hots for Ben Tramer. So that was a nice little touch. You know, they throw in Ben Tramer's name in there. Because, yeah, Laurie, in the original movie in 1978, she had a thing for Ben Tramer. So I like that nice little touch in there. So the beautiful factor about this movie, what I really enjoyed, is that it really does establish Michael as this character who is just evil. He's just pure evil with no rhyme or reason, because even in the 2018 movie, they established that, okay, Michael and Laurie are no longer brother and sister. That story thread that was set up in the previous movies, like H2O and Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, established that Michael and Laurie were related. Whereas in the 2018 movie, they were like, okay, we're retconning all that stuff, and we're just jumping off of the original 1978 movie where Michael is just this force of evil, and he's just the boogeyman with no rhyme or reason. And they bring us back to that. Where in the 2018 movie, Laurie is so obsessed with Michael that she believes he's coming after her. Where in my mind, I'm thinking Michael's not coming after you. They even set that up in this movie. They established that when Allison is being interviewed by the officer of the events of what just previously happened, she says that no, it wasn't Michael who went to Laurie. It was the Dr. Sartain who drove Michael to Laurie. And that's how we had that whole showdown at the end of that movie. So I like that they mentioned that. So then Laurie in this movie is not really a factor. And I know a lot of people, they were complaining about, well, the trailers and the whole thing is that, Laurie and Michael are supposed to have their showdown and all this kind of stuff. And to me, it's just like Laurie is not really important. It's about Michael and what he's doing and how people can stop him. And he's just a force of nature. And so it's just like with the whole Michael going after Laurie, we don't really need that, and we didn't have that here, and that's what I like, that Michael's just going on his own journey, on his own quest. He's doing his own thing. And so it's not about Laurie. They even Hawkins says that to Laurie later. He's like, it's not about you. And so I like that she's in the hospital, and she can't go out and do anything. Like, people were complaining about, oh, yeah, it's supposed to be about Michael and Laurie. Why didn't we get Laurie getting out of the hospital and having a showdown with Michael? Because, like, during this hospital sequence, when all this chaos happens, Laurie needs this guy, like this doctor who's like bum rushing her, and there's like this mob crowd, and they rush Laurie, and then she needs this guy, and it's kind of confusing sequence. Like, when I first saw it, I was like, did she need a guy, or like we don't really get to see it, but you hear the sound effect of her like kneeing this doctor in the groin area or something, and she just needs this guy, and she tears her surgical wound open. So just her kneeing some like average person injures her so bad that she tears her wound open to where like now she's limping for the rest of the movie. So there was no way, shape, or form that Laurie Strode could go out and take on Michael, because she can't even knee a regular guy in the face without reopening her wound. So I accept the fact that for a majority of the movie she's just in the hospital, because like that's the complication you run into of continuing from where you previously left off and not like jumping ahead 4 or 5 years later. If they were to jump ahead and this movie were to take place in the future, then yeah, we can have Laurie and Michael show down, which is what I believe they're saving for Halloween Ends. You can have that happen, but in this, since it's picking up immediately after the previous movie, Laurie's too injured to take on Michael. So it makes sense why she's in the hospital, and then they establish that the story's not really about her. I mean, the previous movie was about her and her trauma of dealing with what happened in the 1978 movie, which was great. But then this movie, it's like it's about the whole town and the effects of Michael, of what he did in the past, coming back to haunt them. But then I know a lot of people were complaining about, well, in the 2018 movie, they established that, what Michael did in 1978 is not that big of a deal, so who cares? But then, like I said, in the Halloween Kills movie, when they're at the bar, Tommy Doyle says, yeah, you're either too young to remember or too drunk to give a shit. So he sets everyone up in the bar for, what's about to happen later. Then news, when they watch the news report of, what happened, catches everyone up to cue. That's when everyone is like, okay, riled up, like, yeah, what Tommy said, we believe him. And then they watch the news and they're like, okay, this guy is back. And so then that creates the angry mob at the bar. And I know a lot of people were also complaining about this whole line, which is kind of cheesy, and it does run throughout the entire film, where they're like, evil dies tonight. The first person that says that in the movie is Nurse Marion. And it makes sense for Nurse Marion to say it, because she was, an assistant to Dr. Loomis, who was always, that guy was like super serious, like the evil must die and all this kind of stuff. And so that's why I really wish they had given Marion more to do. just to establish where her position is in this entire situation. Because they don't give her any dialogue or anything to do until her kill scene, which sucks. But Nurse Marion is the first person to say evil dies tonight. And then that bleeds into Tommy, you know? And then Tommy doesn't say it until he's at the hospital. And then that riles everybody else up. So then you go to the hospital and they establish that, okay, Michael's not after Laurie and it's not about her. And then they learn that Michael Myers is still alive. And then in this weird inserted shot, Allison is like, what? And then she's like all upset that Michael is alive and she's crying because, you know, the thing that I love about this Halloween Kills movie is that for me, not being a super fan of the 2018 movie, I thought that movie was okay. Halloween Kills to me makes the 2018 film a richer film because like at the end of the 2018 movie, Allison's dad died. And in that movie, they kind of just blow it off like, okay, he got killed, and then he was used as a prop in the closet and all this kind of stuff. But they don't acknowledge the fact that he died. So in this movie, that's Allison's driving factor, is that her dad died. Like, she's crying throughout the whole entire movie about her father, and that's her whole driving force. And so I like that. Even Karen, who, you know, her husband died, and she's like saying, yeah, he killed my husband. And, you know, they even have there's this really nice shot of Karen in this room, and you can see her behind the glass, and the camera, you know, it pans in on her, and she's crying. I thought that was a great shot. And then you see a scene where Allison and Karen are in the stairwell, and they're remembering, you know, Allison's remembering her dad, and Karen's remembering her husband, and I thought that was a nice scene. So they give Allison and Karen a lot of motivation here, especially Allison. So then when she learns that Michael Myers is alive, her boyfriend shows up, and she's like, okay, my father, who is Lonnie, we're going to go down, and we're going to hunt Michael and all this stuff. So the mob from the bar are hanging out with Tommy and Lonnie, and then Tommy, you know, he's going out, riling everybody up, where he's just like, yeah, there's a psychopathic killer on the loose. I need some good people who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty and all this stuff. So he grabs as many people as he can from this small town of Haddonfield. Now, we don't know how small this town is, but apparently it's so small that the entire town can get riled up about this killer who killed, you know, a couple people back in 1978, and then the 2018 movie established that really no one cares. But then, like I said, Halloween Kills kind of sets everything into motion where it's like, yeah, it could be a bit unbelievable, especially with the chaos that ensues at the hospital. But I believe it just enough to where it's like, okay, it started at the bar. Then Nurse Marion is the first person who said evil dies tonight. Then Tommy heard that. Now he's rallying up the, you know, as many people as he can gather in the town. They all go to the hospital. And the hospital, there's nothing but chaos here, because then you see the mom of this one character who died on that fence in the 2018 movie. She, you know, the mom comes in and she's crying. She's like, I can't find my son. Where is my son? Is he here? Is he alive or dead? What's going on? So there's all this chaos happening. And then Allison and then her boyfriend, they're like, well, yeah, we're going to go with my father and we're going to hunt Michael down and all this kind of stuff. And Allison, her driving factor is her father died, so she wants to get revenge. She's like, I can't let another innocent person die. And then I was thinking, like, how is her mom going to let her do this? You see, because at first I was like, okay, I feel her motivation. But then I was like, as a parent, it's like, you seriously are just going to let your kid go out in the middle of the night while there's this killer on the loose who apparently couldn't die after you trapped him in this Home Alone style house and set him on fire? He escaped, and so why would you let your daughter go out there and do that? And then the movie perfectly concluded what I was thinking, because then Karen comes in and she talks to Allison and she says, I'm not going to let you go out there and, you know, do whatever it is that you want to do. You're going to go in that room with your grandmother and you're going to stay with her. And so with Karen in here, like, I didn't really care too much about her character in the 2018 film, but in this, like I said, I think Halloween Kills makes the 2018 film a richer experience for me, because Karen as a character is very naive. You know, like in the original movie, when Laurie Strode is establishing the boogeyman and this experience that she had, Karen, you know, she's like, my mother put all this trauma on me and all of these things that, you know, these negative experiences that I didn't want in my life, and she didn't want her daughter to experience as well. So that's why Karen separated Allison from Laurie, her, you know, because she didn't want to have her daughter go through the same thing. But then when they learn that Michael is real, she believes her mom at this point. But in Halloween Kills, she's still naive. Because then she's like, okay, Michael is coming after my mother, so we need to have, security guarding my mom. So then she's like freaking out, like, Michael's coming here to the hospital. But then Allison's like, no, he's not coming to the hospital because he's not after her. So it's like everyone has their own point of view of what's happening when no one really knows what's going on. Michael's just out there on his journey. So I loved all the chaos that was at the hospital. Even though like there were some parts of it that felt a little corny, I still was immersed in the experience of what was happening and the whole building tension of it. Even if it was a little goofy. But then, like, Allison's like, yeah, I'm going to go out and get revenge and save people. And then Karen's like, no, he's coming here. I need you to stay with your grandmother. And so, Karen, she stands her ground. She's like, you go stay with your mom, or you go stay with your grandmother. And then Allison goes to do that. And then Tommy eventually comes to the hospital. And, he's talking to Lori. And in this moment, this moment with Tommy, I really enjoyed, too. Because with Tommy, he's still that scared kid from 1978. He's like, what do we do, Lori? How do we stop this evil? And then in this performance from Jamie Lee Curtis, which is it's kind of over the top, but it works for me, where she's like, yeah, we fight. We always fight. This is how we stop the evil and all this kind of stuff. So then, we see that moment, and then Tommy, he's talking to the sheriff, and I love the sheriff in this. I wish he had more to do. But we see Tommy and the sheriff talking, and then Tommy's like, we've seen your department fail time and time again. You should have stopped the evil a long time ago, but you didn't do your job, so now it's in our hands and all this kind of stuff. And then the sheriff is like, well, I'm the law around here, and you're not going to create a mob and all this kind of stuff. And then we see Sheriff Brackett from the 1978 film. And it was nice to see him here. But then the thing for me with this character is that I felt his introduction was just like, hey, I remember him. It wasn't like building him as a character or anything. It was just like, I remember Sheriff Brackett. Because how they introduce him is when Laurie is brought into the hospital. And then Brackett is like, oh, Laurie Strode. And then the camera zooms in on his name tag and it says Brackett. So for someone who has no idea who Brackett is, they'll be like, who the fuck? What's important about this guy? Okay, his name is Brackett. But then I love that Brackett gets more to do than Marion here, because then it's like later, as the sheriff is interviewing everybody, he talks to Brackett, and then Brackett is like, back in the events of 1978, I wasn't there when they captured Michael because I was telling my wife that our daughter was dead. So then it establishes why he wasn't there, and then they do recycle some footage from the original Halloween 2 movie, even though that's not a part of the canon, but they use those moments to further illustrate, the Brackett's loss and what other characters were experiencing. So I enjoyed that, and that was nice. So we see Brackett in here. I wish he had a better introduction, but it was nice to see him here, and I'm glad they put some emotional weight in here as to his experience of what happened in the 1978 film, so I like that. And, Tommy, he's riling everybody up. He's like, evil dies tonight. And I'm like, I'm accepting it because Marion said it to him first, and then Tommy said it to everyone else. And then everyone else starts to say it. So then after Tommy says it, Brackett says evil dies tonight. And it makes sense because he's mad about his daughter because he wasn't there when they arrested Michael because he was talking to his wife. So when Brackett says it, I accept it. Like, first, like I said, Marion says it, and I accept that she says it because she got that from Loomis, which I wish they had a scene with Marion, in establishing that. But Marion says it first. That infects Tommy. And I understand why Tommy is saying it, because from the very get-go, you're like, this guy is super obsessed with what happened in the past, that he can't let it go, and that's all. Like, they don't really set up his character enough to where it's like you get a full depth perspective of what he's going through. I just noticed that he has a wedding ring, but you never see his wife in the movie. You don't know if the guy's divorced, but you can tell the guy drinks a lot, so you're just like kind of building stuff in your head as to where his mentality and his mental state is. And my conclusion is that the guy is like a emotional wreck. And so I can understand why he says Evil dies tonight, because he's obsessed with Michael from the very beginning. And then he goes to the hospital, and then he riles everyone up there. And we see Brackett, and if we saw the 1978 movie in which he illustrates here is, hey, my daughter got killed, and that's his daughter. Of course he's not going to forget about that. And then so it's like, him saying Evil dies tonight makes sense. Even though at first when I saw it did feel kind of corny when he said it. But I was like, okay, it makes sense, you know, building that connection, him and his daughter, and him wanting to get revenge after all this time. And so he says it. Then there's like this random lady that... there's this random lady that says Evil dies tonight. And I don't really think they established her in any way, shape, or form. I don't think they set her up or anything. She just kind of pops in there, kind of like that guy in the Dark Knight movie. It just felt kind of weird. You know, he's like, no more dead cops. And then she's just like, Evil dies tonight. So it felt like that. Kind of silly. With her coming out of nowhere. They really could have cut that out. They didn't really need that lady to say it. But I can understand Marion saying it. I can understand Tommy saying it. I can understand Brackett saying it because of their experiences. But this random lady, who we don't know, just coming out of nowhere saying it, does feel kind of silly. But yeah, so then now everyone's all riled up, and now we see this fat Danny DeVito show up again. And so he shows up at the hospital, and he's like, help me, help me. And it felt like a different movie at this point. Even though I was invested in the intensity and the emotional weight of everything that was happening, because there's just so much chaos, and it just builds and builds, and I thought it was great. But then when you see this the Danny DeVito character coming in here, and you see his image in the mirror or in the window, and he's like, help me, and he's got the scar on his head. It just felt kind of silly. It just felt like a completely different movie to me. But then I still was invested in all the chaos, because then Tommy's like, Evil dies tonight, and they think it's Michael. And then Lori, you know, she puts her clothes back on, and then she's like thinking it's Michael, and Allison thinks it's Michael because she's telling everyone that Michael's coming here. So it kind of works for me in a way, even though it does feel a little goofy. It's like 50-50. It's like it works, and then it works, but then it feels silly at the same time. But I don't know. It's just like it goes, and then everyone is like, it's just a mob of people just trampling each other and stomping on each other. And I'm thinking, like I said, it's goofy, but it works. You know, it's like shit like this happens, but does it happen to this extent? I don't know. I mean, I've seen videos of people like stomping each other over cell phones and stuff because they want to buy the latest phone or some crap like that. You know, may sound pretentious, but I'm just like, hey, shit like this happens. Maybe it's not executed the way the movie executed it, but whatever. I'm following along with it. So then, you know, they're chasing this guy, and a lot of people complain about it. Like, yeah, I feel like it's its own. It's hard to explain. It works for me. And them thinking that, hey, that's Michael, because number one, you see this guy wearing the overalls that say Smith's Grove inmate. So you know that this guy is an escapee from Smith's Grove Sanitarium. So I'm thinking they're looking at that and they're thinking, okay, yeah, he's an escaped mental patient. Michael's on the loose, but no one has seen his face for like 40 years. So they really don't know what he looks like. But then people were complaining online like, well, they would show his face on the news or something like that. But they didn't. We didn't see it as an audience. So maybe the characters in the movie didn't see his face when they were talking about, oh, this escaped mental patient. So people are assuming that this guy in the hospital is Michael. And I'm thinking, yeah, you know, that's not Michael. But with the characters within the film, they don't know that. You know, so as an audience member, I kind of don't accept it because I'm like, I know what Michael looks like, but then the characters in the movie don't know what he looks like. And even Lori within the scene is like, that's not Michael. She looks at the guy and she's like, that's not him. But everyone else is so riled up about stopping the evil that they're disregarding what she's saying because there's just so much chaos happening that everyone's stomping and trampling over each other. And like you see the stairwell scene where Karen is trying to save the guy, and then this doctor comes out of nowhere and throws her on the ground, and then the doctors and everyone's falling down the stairs and everything. Like, I just love the chaos of the scene, even though like it could have been executed a little differently and made it a bit less silly, but it works for me. I was invested in the intensity and the suspense and just the emotional building of it that I just ended up accepting it. I loved it. I thought the chaos in this moment was great. I felt it. So, this mob is trying to kill this escaped mental patient who they think is Michael. And then Karen, like I said, Halloween Kills makes Karen a better character for me. It really makes the 2018 Halloween a richer film because she was naive about her mom believing in the boogeyman and Michael to the point where she kept her daughter Allison from her grandmother. But then by the end, she believes her mom because of what she just experienced by the end of the 2018 film. But then now she's even more naive where she's like there's a scene where she's talking to Laura and she's like, let the cops do their job. Don't believe what this mob is doing. There's a system in place that, helps us with these kind of things. And then Laurie's like, the system failed and all this kind of stuff. We need to take the law in our own hands. And, Karen's very naive about, you can't do that. And I accept that with Karen. So she's still the same person, So then she's like, I need to stop this mob from killing this guy. So then she finds a way upstairs and she finds the patient, and then she goes and comforts him. She's like, I know you're scared, and I want to help you. I want to protect you and all this stuff. And it was a nice moment. It really built Karen as a character. It kept her the same way she was in the previous movie. And it didn't change her perspective or anything. Like, she's still naive. She's still a good person. Didn't really change her at all. But they give her more to work with here. And establishing who she is as a character. And so she's comforting the guy, and the guy's scared. So then she's like, okay, let me help you. So she locks him in this hallway, and she locks both of the doors, and then the angry mob make it up the stairs, and then they surround the guy, but they can't get to him because both ends of the doors are locked, and then they're like breaking the windows. And you can say it's a little melodramatic, it's a little over dramatic, over the top, whatever. Watching it a second time, it does feel that way. Like I said, it does feel a little corny and cheesy, but it worked for me. It worked for me. It made sense. It made sense to me, even though it does feel like a little corny and cheesy. It worked for me. I enjoyed it because, they're so obsessed in catching Michael that, they're so caught in their own little rage or whatever it is that they're going through that they're not thinking clearly. And then people do that, maybe not to this extent, I don't know, but it worked for me. So then, the guy is like scared, and so he's like, okay, I'm gonna break this glass, but then I'm like, it's a hospital, and I don't think windows in hospitals break that easy, but whatever. So he breaks the glass, and then he goes out on this balcony or on the edge of the building, and the mob, they're trying to get into the corridor, and there's like these quick insert shots of the guy's face and his expression and how he's scared, which I thought were a bit unnecessary. It just made the sequence feel a little corny. I don't know. I think it could have been executed differently, but like I said, it did work for me on a certain level. It took me out and then it brought me back in. Like, there were elements that worked and then there were some that didn't. But he's standing there on the edge, and then the mob gets into the corridor, and then he leaps off of the edge, and he kills himself. He splats, he hits the ground. And I know some people online say that, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have a dramatic, tense moment like that where the dude jumps off the edge, and then you show his brains and his arm like detached from his body and all this kind of stuff. But then for me and my money, when I saw this, I was like, I accept it because it's the reality of the situation. It's not like in real life where you're going to jump off and you're not going to see someone's brains. It's like, no, when someone jumps off from that height and they splat and hit the ground, of course there are going to be brains and blood and whatever all over the ground. So I was just like, when I saw that, when you see that image of him on the ground like that, it really made me cringe in a good way. I was just like, oh, this is really gross. And it's like, it made me feel for that character more. Even though I felt that the execution of this sequence was a bit over the top, I still felt some of the emotional weight of the experience, that by the end of the sequence, I felt bad for that character, and it did make me look at the mob a certain way, to where it's like you let this hysteria, transform you and turn you into something that you most likely didn't want to become. So I love that. I mean, it could have been built a little better and executed a little differently, but I still accepted the whole entire sequence once we got to its conclusion. So, the patient kills himself, and then, the mob surrounds him, and then Brackett's like, that's not Michael. And then Anthony Michael C. Hall is like, how do we know that's not Michael? And a lot of people also complain that, okay, the movie points out its message to the audience. And I'm also a guy who's like, yeah, show me, don't tell me. Where, Brackett looks at the mob and he's like, Michael's turning us into monsters. And so you can kind of roll your eyes at that and be like, well, obviously Michael's turning you into monsters. You're chasing this guy who just wanted help, and you're thinking he's Michael, and you drove him to kill himself. So of course Michael's turning you all into monsters. So it's obvious, but then I thought about it after watching it again. And it makes sense because then Brackett, yeah, he's telling that to the audience, but he's also telling that to the characters within that moment. He's acknowledging the fact, because even during the scene where the mob is surrounding Laurie and Laurie needs that guy and reopens her wound, and then Laurie's on the ground, then Brackett goes to help her, and then I think Laurie tells Brackett that, hey, that's not Michael. And then Brackett's like, yeah, that's not Michael. So then they're trying to stop the mob from killing this guy, but no one's listening. And then the guy ends up killing himself, and then Brackett's like, that's not Michael. Michael's turning us into monsters. He's telling that to the characters within the scene. So during that moment, I accept it. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But then later on, it's like it doesn't really go anywhere because they still just act like a crazy vigilante mob by the end. So it's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's like he shouldn't, they could have cut that out, but then like I said, I accept at the moment. I'm 50-50 with that whole experience. But I thought it was good. I thought it was pretty good. So then after, that moment of the patient killing himself, and then Brackett explains, oh yeah, we're monsters and all this stuff, we go to another scene where we see the guy from Mad TV. I forgot his name. Christopher McDonald or something like that. We see him and his lover, and the guy's smoking weed, and he's dancing to this song, and then there's some trick-or-treaters outside, and there's this one scene where they really build the tension here, because I even fell for it, where you have these two characters, they go outside because the girl knocks on their door and says, oh, my friend swallowed a razor blade and he's choking. So then they go to help him, and then their front door closes, and they're like, did someone just go in our house? And then the girl's like, but my friend, and then they look back at their friend, ignoring that someone just went in their house. And I think that perfectly illustrates the characters in this movie. Because it's like there's a chaotic situation that's happening, but they're distracted by something else. Because it's like with the black couple at the bar, where he doesn't take the situation seriously. It's like first he's like offering Tommy like, hey, let me buy you some rounds because like I didn't even know that all this stuff happened. Then the news comes on and he's worried about this kid next door more than, the psychopathic murderer on the loose, to the point where he's just like, he's letting his wife go to the car by herself. And then once he comes back out and she's like, someone's in the car, that's when he's like taking the situation seriously. So I feel like this scene with these two characters really established the characters in the movie as a whole, where they're distracted by something when they should be focusing on something else. So, they're worried about the kid with the razor blade in their mouth, and then this character comes out of the house and steals all of their candy, and they're wearing the Silver Shamrock mask from the Halloween 3 movie, which was a nice touch. And then so you have these two characters, and they talk to these kids, and they say, do you know whose house this is? This is Michael Myers' house, and he stabbed his sister in tits and all this kind of stuff. And then the kids, they get scared, and they run away. And this moment, I was thinking, okay, yeah, these two characters are going to die right away, but they set up these characters in this moment to where you don't see them again later on. But it was nice to see these two characters here. It sets them up in their own environment, and so you see that, and then we go into a scene where Nurse Marion and Lindsay and the black couple are in the car. And this is another favorite sequence of mine in the movie, where they're driving and they're trying to warn people, get off the street, there's a killer on the loose and all this stuff. And then so they're driving in the car, and then they witness these two kids on the swing, and these are the two kids who stole the candy from the gay couple earlier in the film. So they pull over. Lindsay pulls the car over, and one of the characters are like, "Yeah, they shouldn't be out here late at night." And then Lindsay's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go out there and warn them." But then the other character's like, "Don't go, don't get out of the car," and all this stuff. So they're all scared except for Lindsay. She's brave. She don't care. She's gonna try and save these kids. So she gets out of the car and she runs over to the kids. And it's kind of a silly scene where she runs over to the kids and then she's like, "What are you kids doing out here?" And then they're like, "We're trick or treating. What do you think we're doing?" And then they're like, "There's this guy in this creepy mask, and he's just playing hide and seek with us, or peekaboo, and he's just standing over there." And then Michael comes out. She's like, Lindsay's like, where is this guy?" And then they're like, "He's right there." And then she turns around, and then Michael's just standing there, and then the kids are like, "What the hell are you doing, dude? You're not scaring us. What the fuck are you doing?" So it's funny. But then I accept it because it's like they're kids, and they don't really understand the situation at hand. And then so Michael's standing there, and apparently he killed their friend because he's holding the skeleton mask that was in the previous scene from when their friend walked inside of the house and was like, "I stole all your candy." So, and then even one of the kids on the swing is like, "Hey, is that our friend's mask?" and all this stuff. So apparently that character got killed off screen. And then Lindsay turns to the kids and she's like, "You need to run. You need to get out of here. Go now before he kills us all." So it just feels kind of silly with how it was executed. But like I say, even though these sequences may start off silly and the situation, how it's executed feels a little silly, the tension and the suspense, the suspenseful nature of it, how it builds, really works for me. Even it sucks me out for a moment, but then it draws me right back in. So then the kids run away, and then Lindsay's just standing there, and then she starts to take off her jacket, and then she grabs this bag of candy that the kids were carrying that they just left there, and then she puts all of these blocks and bricks inside the bag, and then Michael does this thing that he did in the 1978 movie when he escaped Smith Grove Sanitarium. You see the red light on his mask, which looks really great, and then he turns around and he leaps over the car. He leaps on top of the car, and then at this moment, you see Nurse Marion, and this is all the development she gets. As soon as Michael leaps over the car, and he's climbing on top of the hood, or he's climbing on the roof of the car, and you see Marion's reaction where she's like, she's like, "Oh my God." So then in my mind, it's like she's going back to those events that happened in 1978. She immediately knows that it's Michael. So then he leaps on top of the car, and then she's like freaking out. So she locks everyone else in the car, and the couple in the back seat are like, "Unlock the door," and she's freaking out. And then Michael's hand slaps the windshield, and then she shoots the mask off the windshield. And then Michael comes on her side of the passenger side of the car, hits the glass on that side, and she freaks out, moves over to the driver's side, and shoots that window out. So then it's like she's just shooting the windows. Like there was another review that I saw where people were like, "All she's doing is shooting the windows. It's a stupid moment." It's like you're trapped inside the car shooting the windows so Michael could get in there and easily kill you. But then it's like when you look at it from the character's perspective, like when I saw that moment where Michael looked and she saw Michael leap on top of the car, and you see the reaction on Marion's face, it's like in her mind, in my mind, I'm thinking she's going back to those moments in 1978. And it terrifies her because even before all of this chaos happens, when Lindsay goes to check on the kids, she rolls up her window. She's like, "I'm not getting out of the car." So it's like, in that scenario, you got this guy who like you're afraid of and leaps on top of the car. She locks herself and these other two occupants in the car, but she has a gun. Like the girl in the backseat has a Desert Eagle, and then Marion has this revolver in her hand. And so it's like you have a few options here. It's like you can either get out of the car and Michael will kill one of you, and then two of you could escape, but the side that Michael leaped off of, he would have killed the black lady first who had the Desert Eagle, and then Marion, she's frantic, scared, so who knows if she would be able to shoot him, but he would kill one of you most likely if all of you were to get out of the car. Or you can just stay in the car and then just shoot the roof of the car, but then rupture your eardrums at the same time. But this is a movie. People be shooting weapons in all sorts of weird places where they shouldn't be able to hear anything anymore. But, you know, it's a movie. They're not going to do that. But, like, I thought the sequence itself was very suspenseful and how it built the tension because she locks herself in the car. And then when she shoots out the back window, that's when the lady with the Desert Eagle, she climbs out of the car. And Michael doesn't immediately attack her, which was weird. She jumps out of the car and she's able to escape, so she disappears for a little while. I don't know what she's doing. I'm thinking she ran away or something. And then Michael grabs Nurse Marion and then, like, pulls her hair, and then the guy in the back seat tries to save her, but then her hair gets ripped off, and he's like, okay, or her hair gets ripped off, and he's like, okay, let's get out of here. But then Michael leaps off of the car, and then Marion, comes out of the driver's side door, and then she's about to shoot Michael, but she tries to get a last word in, like, oh, hey, this is for Loomis. And then she ran out of bullets. She shot all of the bullets out of the gun, and then she starts to get scared, and then Michael approaches her, and then he goes in to stab her, and it's like, I felt that, even though we don't get a whole lot of emotional building with her character or establish, like, where she stands in this whole situation or anything. Her character being killed in that moment, I felt bad, because it's like, just with her reaction to being stabbed, I felt that. Like, she's like, oh no, oh my God. And then he stabs her, and I felt that. That made me a little sad. But I do wish they had given her more to do in this movie, though. She really had no lines of dialogue except in her death scene, which was very disappointing. Like I said, she had more screen time in H2O than she did in this, but I felt her death scene. It was very sad. And then for the black guy, I'm thinking, okay, he's not a brave individual. Like, he's gonna leave his wife to go to the car by herself. And, when she's like, hey, there's someone in the car, go and stop them. He's like, fuck that, I'm not going in there. And then even when Lindsay pulled the car over to go rescue those kids, when Michael popped out, he was like, fuck this, just drive. He was willing to leave Lindsay behind to save his own ass. So it's like, they clearly set up his character as a coward. So then in the one moment, I thought this was funny. In the one moment where he decides to be brave, like, Michael already stabbed Mary and she's dead. So then he grabs his stethoscope and he tries to choke Michael with it. And at that moment, I was like, man, what do you do in that situation? Like, you're in the back seat and there's this crazy killer who's terrorizing you. He just killed Mary and your wife just ran away. You're trapped here in the back seat with no way of escape except climbing out the window. But as you try to climb out the window, Michael could, like, stab you in the leg or something like that, or, like, get out of the car and then block you and then kill you. So then it's like, there's one moment where he's trying to be brave. He grabs his stethoscope, he starts choking him. And the whole scene is fantastic. Like I said, the suspenseful nature of it is great. And then the musical cue. The music, like, builds and builds and builds. And then this, like, really awesome score comes in. And then, like I said, Michael looks great, too, with his mask. And then the music comes in. And then Michael turns around and just stabs the guy in the eye. And it's very horrific. It's very horrific. It's like, damn, man. Like, it made me, like, cringe in a good way. It was like, holy shit, like, this movie's not playing around. And it looked real, too. Like I said, I complained in the 2018 movie about, like, yeah, when he stabbed that lady in the back of the neck, it looked like it was CGI. But in this, it's like, man, props to the special effects team and to whoever built the gags in this movie, because it looked absolutely realistic. It was fantastic. So he stabs the guy in the eye, and when he stabbed him in the eye the first time, I was like, okay, I felt that. That looked real. And then the guy's eyes go in the back of his head, and his tongue's hanging out, and he's like just, whimpering around and stuff. I was like, okay, that's great. Then they cut away from that, and then they show Michael doing something, or Laurie putting the bricks back in the bag. But then they cut back to the guy dying, and I was just like, okay, once was enough. Like, the first time when they show him getting stabbed, I accepted it. I was like, that looks realistic. I like how that looks. But then they go back to it again, and they show him slowly dying in the back seat, where I'm like, this looks a little silly. Like, it's one of those situations to me where it's like, if you linger on it too much, it doesn't look real. You show it really quickly, and just, like, show it as quick as possible, and then you see the after effect of it, and you're like, okay, cool. But then when you go back to it, and you linger on it, it just doesn't have that same emotional impact. It just feels a little silly. So I hated that they showed it again and showed him slowly dying. I didn't like that. But, It was a very suspenseful moment, and then all of a sudden, the black lady comes back, and it's like, what the hell was she doing this whole time? She's like, and I heard people complaining about that on the internet too, and I agree. Like, what the hell? Like, I thought she had run away or something, because she comes back, and she's shooting at the car with this Desert Eagle, and she's missing Michael completely. And I know a lot of people complain about, well, she has a Desert Eagle, and it's like, what the hell was she doing this whole time? And it's like, how are you missing him? And it's like, well, it's a movie, I mean, if you hit him, then there's no movie and all this kind of stuff. And I really can't come up with an explanation for this. I can't. Only thing I can come up with is like, okay, she was at the bar, she was drinking, she's being all cocky. Like in the moment where her husband has the gun, he's like, I've never shot a gun before. How do you even use this thing? And then his wife is like, I shot this shit before. I know how to use it. Give me the gun. So she takes the gun from her husband, and she's all cocky, like, oh yeah, I know how to shoot this. And all of a sudden, she's starting to shoot the gun, and she doesn't know what she's doing. So the only thing I can chalk it up to is like, okay, one, she was drinking at the bar, but then we don't see her drinking at the bar, I don't think. But she was at the bar, so let's say she was drinking at the bar, so she's a little intoxicated. And then on top of that, maybe she's never shot a gun before, maybe she has, I don't know. They really don't establish that. But she's coming in and she's shooting at Michael, and she completely misses. And then in a funny moment that I agree with a lot of people online, where it's like, this is so silly, where she approaches Michael with the gun, and then she uses one arm, and then Michael kicks the door open, and then the gun hits her in the hand, and then she shoots herself in the head, and she falls to the ground. It's like, in my mind, I'm thinking, how is she able to hold that huge Desert Eagle in her hand? Like, that gun looks bigger than her hand. Michael kicks the gun, and yet she's still able to hold the gun perfectly in her hand. I don't know. But then she shoots herself in the head, and she falls. Then Michael even gets out of the car. And I think they did this on purpose as, like, a silly moment. And I think in the movie, the writers set this up as being a silly moment. And they know it's a silly moment, because even Michael gets out of the car, and he does his classic head tilt thing, and he just looks at her, and he's like, that was super easy, So it's like, I think the director and the writer, they set that up to make it seem like it was silly. Because it's like, it's a horror movie, and there's a lot of gruesome stuff in here, and so it's like, you gotta have stupid characters doing stupid things so they can get killed easily. And then you gotta have some fun with it, too, to balance out the serious nature and the violent nature of the film. So it's like, with that moment, I accepted it. I accepted it because I thought the entire scene within the car was very suspenseful, with the music and just the tension of it, and just how I just love the entire scene, that I can accept that, yeah, Michael kicked the door open, she shot herself, and all that kind of stuff. Because I feel like that was intentional. Because like I said, even Michael is tilting his head like, what the fuck, And then all of a sudden, Lindsay comes out of nowhere, and she starts hitting Michael in the face with the bag. And then, he grabs her, and she drops the bag, and then he slams her into the car. And then he starts choking her, and I'm like, oh, he's about to kill Lindsay. But then she goes for his mask, and she starts pulling his mask off of his face. And then, so what, like what I said before, I feel Halloween Kills definitely makes the Halloween 2018 a richer film. Because in the 2018 film, Michael is obsessed with his mask. Then at the very beginning of the 2018 film, they pull out his mask, and he twitches a little bit, and they're like, you feel the mask gives you the power, and all this stuff. So in Halloween Kills movie, when Lindsay goes for his mask, he immediately lets her go. He throws her on the ground, and then he starts to readjust his mask. So they are further establishing that Michael's power comes from his mask, or that he just really cares about his mask to the point where it's like he can't kill without his mask. Now, Lindsay doesn't know that, but she just went for the mask, and that's what saved her life. And so I like that. They're kind of setting up little things here to where it's like, okay, they're building Michael as a character and giving him some sort of personality without Michael having to, have dialogue or explain his reasoning to the audience. This is being built up as, the story is progressing, and these characters are doing things that are setting up these situations to where it's like, okay, Michael's obsessed with his mask. Or Michael, he kills people and then he goes home. So or he's staring at his sister's window. Like, they're giving us these little bitty nuggets here that are giving us some sort of character to Michael. Like, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So then, you know, he throws Lindsay on the ground, and her playing with Michael's mask is what saves her life. And then, so, you know, you have this nice little chase scene where she's running, and then Michael's chasing her down, and then, you know, she's like covering her mouth and she's being quiet, and then, you know, Michael's lurking around trying to find her, and he can't find her, and so he disappears. And then after that, Lindsay, she's not in the movie after that whole sequence. She just kind of disappears, which is weird. I guess they take her to the hospital where Tommy is, and then, you know, they're looking after her and all this, and so it's just like she has nothing to do for the rest of the movie. She's just gone. So maybe we'll see her in Halloween Ends, but she disappears after that sequence, which I thought was a suspenseful sequence. And then, yeah, we have the chaos at the hospital that happens, and then Michael eventually goes back home, and he encounters the two guys that are living on his property or living inside of his house. And you have these two characters. I thought this sequence was very, like I said, the suspenseful building in here is really good. Because then you have, like, they're chilling on the couch. Someone knocks on the back door. And then, you know, one of the guys gets up and he goes to investigate. And then he opens the door and he's like, there's no one there. And then someone knocks at the front door, and then he's like, now someone's at the front door. So the other guy gets up off the couch, so he goes to investigate what's happening at the front door. And then you even see the guy who checked the back door, he closes it without locking it. So then he goes to the front door where his boyfriend is, and then they're like, oh, there's no one out here. And then they also established this pitchfork that will be used later. They established the pitchfork, and then the one boyfriend's like, oh, did you lock the back door? And he's like, oh, I don't remember if I did. Let me go check. So then he goes to check, and then you see a blood stain on the side of the door, and the door is wide open, and then the guy's scared, and then his boyfriend comes in, and he's like, oh, I think someone's in our house, and it's not a child. And so in that moment, I'm thinking in my head, why don't you just leave the house and call the police? Like, I thought it was kind of silly where it's like, okay, we're going to defend our house when clearly there's some person in our house who's bleeding or has blood on their hand, and they're clearly in here, and you're just going to stay in your house. It's just like, okay, he takes off his robe, and then he takes off his rings, and he grabs this little knife, and he's like, okay, I got this knife. And then his boyfriend's like grabbing a knife, and he's like, okay, I got this knife. And then they split up, and it's just like, I'm thinking, bro, what the hell are you doing? Like, what? If it was me, I would leave the house unless I had a gun. If I had a gun, then yeah, sure, I would stay in there and try to defend my house. But if it's like, if I don't have a gun, I'm not staying in that house. I'm leaving. I'm like, why don't you just leave the house and call the police? But then in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you know, there are some people who are like, I'm not going to call the police. I can do this myself. So it's like, whatever, man. So like they search the house and they try to find out who's in there. And, you know, it's a typical horror movie thing where it's like, yeah, you know, people have to split up, and it's like, why don't they stick together, you know, just in case someone does pop out. But no, they split up, and then it's like you're alerting whoever's in your house to where you are, because then it's like as they split up, they search different parts of the house. The one boyfriend, you know, just to know where they are, he's like, oh, the kitchen is clear. Oh, the bedroom is clear, and they're yelling this out to each other. So I'm thinking, okay, now you're just telling the intruder where you are, which I thought it was just kind of silly. But then it's like, whatever, you know, some people do weird things, and that's just the way some people are. I don't know. Everyone will do things differently. It's like how I set all this up in my head is like, you know, the scenario is you can say what you would do in that situation, but then when the situation happens to you and your adrenaline is pumping like that, it's like, you don't know what you would do. You know, you can have some sort of idea of what you would do, but then when it happens, it's just kind of like shit's going down, and you just react to it and just pure instinct. So that's how I chalk up to these characters doing this silly stuff. So they're searching the house, and the one boyfriend's in the bedroom, and this is like my second favorite kill in the movie. It's very gruesome. Michael just comes out of nowhere and stabs the guy in the armpit, and the guy is like, the performance from the guy being stabbed, he's like twitching, and then Michael turns him around, and then he fucking gouges his eyes out, and fucking blood splatting everywhere, and the fucking eyeballs pop out of his head, and fucking Like every time I see that moment, it makes me cringe in a good way. Like there's a bunch of kills in this movie that make me cringe, man, because he's just like, you hear the guy screaming and he's just like fucking, oh man, it's awesome, it's gross, and it's sad. It's like I feel all of these different elements, but it's like he's fucking pulling his eyes out and then he dies, and then his boyfriend goes upstairs to investigate. Michael's just staring out the window, and then the boyfriend's just standing there like, Michael, you've come home after all this time. And then Michael looks cool and he turns around and stares at the guy, and then off screen you hear the guy screaming and Michael apparently kills him. And I know a lot of people are complaining online like, bro, why is he just standing there? And in my mind I'm thinking, well, his lover just got killed. He's just accepting his fate at this point. That's how I look at it. It's like, well, why would he run away? It's like they know who Michael is. They know that they're in Michael's house. He's encountering Michael. His lover's dead on the ground. It's like, what else do you have to live for? Just fucking kill me already. You know, so that's what I chalk it up to as to why he didn't run away. But like, so he gets killed off screen, and then you have Allison back in the hospital, and she leaves Laurie behind. She's like rebellious. She's like, I'm gonna go find Michael. I'm gonna go stop this evil from stalking everybody. So she goes with her boyfriend and Lonnie. And I know a lot of people were complaining about, okay, so you got this grown man who takes his son and his son's girlfriend, and they're minors, and he's a grown man, he's an adult, and he's taking his kids to go hunt down a murderer. And it's like, why would you do that? But then it's like, even the character, like when he has this map and he's tracking down all of the people that got killed, and he's pointing out that, okay, so you see all of Michael's victims. That's a straight line to Michael's house. This is what he does. He kills people and then he goes home. So then he's like, he takes Allison and her boyfriend. He takes his son and he takes the two teenagers to Michael's house. And even the character in that moment, he says to himself, he's like, God damn it, you fucking idiot. I brought my kids to the belly of the beast. Like, why did I bring my kids here? So people are like mad at him because it's like he did make a stupid decision to bring his kids to this house when, you know this murder is on the loose, but even the character acknowledges that. So it's like people are making stupid decisions throughout this entire movie, and it's like, you may not like any of these characters, but hey, in life people make stupid decisions. That's all I can chalk it up to. And you may not like any of the characters for making these stupid decisions, and I'm not going to say I like any of these characters. I just love the situations that they get into. And I'm following the story, and I'm excited about the story, and I love the atmospheric approach to it. I enjoy witnessing the characters in this movie, and I think the performances are solid from everybody, and I love the musical score, and just the whole overall approach of it. Like I said, some of it feels goofy, but then the movie just sucks me right back into the suspense. So then he's like, yeah, I shouldn't have brought you here. So then he leaves his kids in the car. He's like, you stay here, and I'm going to go in the house by myself. He's like, I'm going to go in the house by myself. And I know a lot of people online say, well, that's stupid as hell. It's like, you already brought your kids there, so you might as well just bring them in there with you because there's strength in numbers. It's like, this is what people in horror movies always do. They always split up, and they eventually get killed. And that's what happens here. Because you already know that as soon as he goes in that house, he's going to die. But then it makes sense because when you watch the original Halloween 1978 film with that character Lonnie, there is a scene where Loomis scares Lonnie, where Lonnie, his friends dare him to go inside Michael's house. And they're like, Lonnie, go inside the house. And he's like, I'm not scared. And then that's when Loomis comes out and scares the kids. So then, in the Halloween Kills movie, where they're comforting Lindsay, who, was previously attacked by Michael, Lindsay mentions that, oh yeah, Lonnie was the only one brave enough to go inside Michael's house. But then the camera cuts to Lonnie, and he's like, I never made it inside. I just lied. I lied that I went inside Michael's house. And you see this expression on his face, like where he's just like kind of ashamed of himself, that they believed this thing for so long to where he finally admits, I lied. I never been inside the house. So then at that moment where he's like telling the kids to stay in the car, and he's like, I can't believe I brought you to the belly of the beast. Let me go inside by myself. I'm thinking multiple things. I'm thinking, yeah, he feels bad that he brought the kids there because clearly he's not thinking straight. And then on top of that, there's some sort of emotion inside of him where he's like, I have to do this alone. He's like building up to this thing that he couldn't do in the past, and now he's building up the courage to do it. It may be kind of silly because it's like, bro, that was a long time ago when you were a kid. You're an adult now. You shouldn't have brought your kids there in the first place, but it's like they're already there and you have weapons going together. But it's like he's building up this courage that he didn't have before. He's still that child from the past that can't let go of that past situation. So that's why he's like, I'm going in there by myself. That's all I can chalk that up to. So then he's like, I'm going in by myself. And then clearly he dies because you hear a gunshot and then you hear him scream. So he gets killed off screen. And then Allison and her boyfriend decide to go into the house. Allison has a shotgun. Her boyfriend has a handgun. And they go in there into the haunted house. And this was a beautiful moment. There's this one moment that further establishes Michael as this character who, has no rhyme or reason for what they're doing. But then at the same time, he does have a bit of personality. There's little sprinkles of personality that the movie showcases of Michael. Because then you see the gay couple, and they're laying on the ground in this pose that is the same pose that is in this picture that is right above their head. And I thought that was a little nice touch. It goes back to the original Halloween movie where Michael was wearing the ghost sheet to surprise Linda before he killed her. So little stuff like that, illustrates Michael as a character. Or like when he pinned Bob to the wall and he does his head tilt, or when he kicked the door open and the girl shot herself and then he does his head tilt. Little things like that where it's like, okay, he kills and then he goes home, but like staring out his sister's window. It's like, why does he do that? So these little nuggets of character right here with Michael I thought were fantastic. So then it's like you see the gay couple in this pose and this record is playing, and then Allison goes to, she looks at their dead bodies and all this, and then her boyfriend is walking down the hall with his gun, and he's scared. His performance is great. He's walking down the hall, and then, Michael pops out of the closet, and he grabs the guy, and he throws him into the wall, and the guy shoots Michael in the stomach, but that doesn't affect him. And then Allison, I saw a review where people pointed out that it's weird where Allison, when she hears her boyfriend being attacked, the first thing that she does is she turns off the record player. That is very odd. Even to me, that's very odd. I don't know why she did that, but she does for some reason. She turns off the record player, and then she takes the knife that she pulled out of the guy and puts it in her belt buckle or something. Then she cocks up her shotgun. Clearly she doesn't know what she's doing because she just walks right up to Michael. Michael blocks it, and then she fires the gun and it doesn't hit him. He throws the gun out of her hand, and in this moment, I was thinking they're going to make Michael look weak here. Like Allison is going to take Michael out. Like they did with Michael and Laurie in the 2018 film. Because the problem I had with that in the 2018 film is that Laurie Strode can go toe-to-toe with Michael. And it doesn't make any sense. Because I was like, in this movie, you got Michael Myers taking out firefighters, spraying a hose on them. He's raising people in the air, stabbing them and stuff. He's taking out police officers, trained professionals. All of these people. But yeah, you got this elderly woman who can overpower him. And it's just this is weird to me. It's like every time Michael goes up against Laurie, it's like she's his kryptonite. He's just can't handle it, So I thought they were going to do that with Michael and Allison here. I was like, bro, you built Michael up as this brute force, and all of a sudden this teenage girl is going to take him out like that. But they didn't do that here. Michael goes Super Saiyan in this movie because after he blocks the rifle, or he blocks the shotgun blast, he does something with the boyfriend. I can't remember. He throws the boyfriend into the wall or something. And he grabs Allison and he headbutts her, or he throws her head into the panel, the stairs, the handle of the wood on the handle of the stairs. He rams her head into that and he just throws her down the stairs, and then she breaks her leg, which I thought was interesting because it's I know a lot of people saying, oh yeah, Allison's got plot armor. Especially Laurie Strode. But then it's if they break their leg or something like that, I'm thinking, okay, that's pretty cool. They can be injured, they can be hurt. So she gets thrown down the stairs, her leg is broken, and then Michael starts playing with her boyfriend, which made me feel sad because I'm like, damn, he's really brutalizing him, because he grabs the boyfriend and then he rams his head through the side of the stairs. And then he's just pounding his face into the stairs, and Allison's like, no, take me instead and let him go. And then Michael's just constantly playing around with him. You even see in the movie where Allison's like, oh, let him go and take me instead. And you can see Michael's eyes a little bit where he's looking at her. kind of like toying with her, and he like pounds the boyfriend's head into the stairs, and then he comes around the side of the staircase, and then he's walking down the stairs, and Allison's got a knife in her hand. She's like, "Come and get me." And then he starts to walk down the stairs, and the boyfriend's still alive after getting jacked up. But then Michael just turns to him, and then just twists his neck, and then kills him, and then now he's dead. And that did make me feel a little sad, because it's like, damn, man, like he just tortured the shit out of that guy in front of Allison. So then Allison starts like screaming and crying, and then Michael comes back downstairs, and then Allison's too weak to go up against Michael. So then Michael grabs the knife in her hand, and then Allison falls to her knees, and then Michael's about to stab her, but for some reason he hesitates. She's like, "Kill me." She's like, "Do it." She's like, "Do it now." And then all of a sudden, her mother, Karen, comes out of nowhere with the pitchfork that they established earlier, so it doesn't really come out of nowhere. But then she comes out and she stabs Michael in the back. And I enjoyed the moment, even though it does feel a little silly, because it's like, okay, you put a pitchfork in his back. But like I said, they set up the pitchfork earlier, so you do know that, hey, they're going to use it at some point. And then with the musical cue, when the music comes into play here, it's fantastic as well. So just like the whole creative aspect of the scene, as goofy as it may seem when you think about it, just absorbing and being sucked into the moment works for me. Just with all the elements at play here, with the music and the atmosphere and the performances and the way Michael looks and just how they set up that pitchfork earlier, it just all works for me. For some reason, it just works. So then she stabs him in the back, and then Michael, that's what makes him weak. This is the first time in the movie where they show his vulnerability. You know, after just going Super Saiyan on everybody, he gets stabbed in the back and he's hurt. And then the music like is ramped up, and it's just like he's getting stabbed, and then he falls on the stairs, and then Karen pulls the pitchfork out of his back, and then she starts stomping on his neck, and you can even hear Michael whimpering in pain during this scene. And so she starts stomping on him, and then she stops. And during this entire sequence, I'm thinking, bro, stomp his fucking neck in, bro. Like, do not, you fucking stomp his shit in until his neck breaks. Like, this motherfucker came after your daughter and came after your mom. Why are you, what do you do? Why are you just standing there? You know, I'm like, bro, like I was screaming, I just screamed like, why are you just standing there? Fucking stomp his neck in, you know? And a lot of characters do that. It's like when they get the upper hand on Michael, they just leave him there. And it's like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? But it's like, okay, so she stomps on his neck, and then she takes his mask off. And then she's like, this kind of a dramatic moment where she takes Michael's mask, and she goes outside. And then this is another time after the 2018 movie, we saw him unmasked in that movie. And then this movie, we see him unmasked again, where we see Michael, and he's just some old man. He's just some old man who has a bald head, and that's it. It's like, that's all he is. It's like, when he has his mask on, he's like this mythical figure. But then when they unmask him, he's just this wrinkly old man. It's funny. It's like this old man, this like 80 or 60-year-old man can do all of that stuff. So it's kind of funny. But then I did enjoy that they humanized Michael to a point to where it's like, all he is this mask. Like, yeah, he may be this mythical figure, but really it's just an elderly person. You know, but then it's like, where does he get all of this strength from? And that's the thing. It's like they try to establish him as a human, but then he's so powerful. He's so superhuman that it makes it unnatural. But then when they unmask him, you know, I was thinking like I'd probably be upset by this. But I wasn't. I was like, I like the fact that they kind of humanize him like this, to where it's like he's just a man in a mask. There's nothing more to it than that. And then his mask, he's so obsessed with it. It's like that's where the source of his power comes from. So I thought all of them establishing that, I thought that was very interesting. But then, so Karen has Michael's mask, and she's like, if you want to kill someone, come and get me, and all this kind of stuff. So then, you know, they cue the music, and Michael starts stalking Karen. Karen's running through the darkness, and during this whole thing, I'm thinking, like, what is she doing? You know? But eventually, the mob surrounds Michael in the middle of the street, and, you know, Karen drops Michael's mask on the ground, and then Michael goes to pick up his mask, and he's surrounded by the mob of citizens of Haddonfield. And so this is why I was thinking like, oh, shit's about to go down now. But then also in the back of my mind, I was thinking, okay, what if this plan didn't work? What if Michael had just was like, all right, fuck you, fuck the mask, I'm not gonna chase you. He goes back inside the house and he uses Karen's daughter Allison as a hostage. You know, because he just did that with the boyfriend in front of Allison. So it's like, what makes you think he's just gonna leave Allison, who's vulnerable, there on the ground to go chase you? So I was thinking multiple things. As I was thinking, why was the mob like that far away from the house when they could have just waited right outside for Michael? You know, because a whole bunch of things could have happened. Like, what if Karen had gotten killed while trying to lure Michael over to the mob? You know what I'm saying? Like, Karen could have grabbed it and something could have, there could have been a big mishap. And then Michael could have killed Karen and the mob's just standing there looking dumb like, where's Karen at? You know, so, but it's a movie. So it's like, whatever. You just, you know, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know the mob was, I didn't know Karen was luring Michael into a trap. But then I'm thinking, like, well, if the mob was waiting outside Michael's house, then Michael would retreat back into the house and keep Allison as a hostage. So I guess it makes sense that the mob is, like, you know, a couple of blocks down the street before they ambush him. But so then Karen leads Michael into a trap, and Michael's surrounded by the mob. And I was thinking at this point, the movie's going to end. I was like, this is what they're clearly setting up. Halloween Ends. We already know that Halloween Ends is going to come, you know, to conclude this whole Halloween franchise. You got your quad trilogy. You got Halloween 1978, you got Halloween 2018, and then you got Halloween Kills and leads into Halloween Ends. And so I thought at this moment, where Michael's surrounded by the mob, just the way they built this moment where Michael grabs his mask and he slowly puts on his mask, and then you got the mob gearing up to take down Michael, and then the music is building. I was thinking in my head, okay, at this moment, when they get ready to fight each other, the screen's gonna go black, and that's the end of the movie. And I was gonna be pissed if they did that, because it's like, number one, it's you're putting Michael in an odd situation here, because it's like when you like I said, for my money, I want to see Michael being a methodical killer where he's hiding in the bushes, he's lurking in the shadows. When you see Michael in full frame, it kind of demystifies him a little bit, to where it's like you're not supposed to see Michael in a full frame, because it just kind of takes that essence of him away. You know, I don't like he's supposed to be the boogeyman lurking in the shadows, but then when you like shine a light on him, it's just kind of like it demystifies his presence a little bit. But like I said, with this movie, even though they show him in the forefront a lot, he looks really cool with like the burnt mask and then the burnt suit, and you know, with everything at play here with the, you know, with the costume design and all that kind of stuff, and then how they film him and how vicious and brutal James Jude Courtney is Michael in this movie, I accept it. I accept how they showcase Michael in here, to where I should have been upset, but I wasn't. I was very impressed with the way Michael looked. I was impressed of how brutal he was. So I didn't mind that, you know, they showed Michael as much as they did. I didn't even mind that they unmasked him and we get to see that he's just some wrinkly old man. So I was just like, okay, I was cool with that. I love that stuff. But when he was surrounded by the mob, I was like, how are they going to execute this to where they don't make it look silly? And I think they did make it work, because then it's like, you know, what people were complaining about was like, why don't people just jump him at the same time? And they did in this moment. Like, the whole mob comes in, and they grab their hockey sticks and baseball bats and 2x4s, and they beat the shit out of Michael. And this is the point in the movie where Michael is extremely vulnerable. They beat the shit out of him to where he's weak now. It's like he's a piece of shit. He's like, they're beating the shit out of him, and then he falls to his knees, and then they whack him in the head, and then the one dude pulls out a gun, and then Michael does try to defend himself, where the guy, you know, in movies, people, when they have a gun in their hand, they just constantly get close to the person. And it's like, no, you shoot him from a distance. You don't have to get that close to him. But the dude walks up on Michael with his gun, and then he's about to shoot him, and then Michael slashes the dude's hand. And then they continue to beat the shit out of him. But then the guy comes back, and he's like shooting Michael in the chest. So then Michael gets shot in the chest. So as an audience, you're like, okay, Michael, that's not going to harm him. That's not going to affect him. You like really need to go in at him. But then the characters in the movie, they don't really know what Michael is capable of. They haven't experienced what we've experienced with Michael as an audience. So they don't know. exactly what he's capable of. So they shoot Michael in the chest. He's like shot up and he falls to the ground. And I love it again because then you hear Michael whimpering, and then you see his hand twitch. And I laughed at that moment because it's like, it's funny, and I felt that moment. I was like, yeah, beat the shit out of Michael, like fucking kill his ass, like get it over with. So then Michael is there, he's whimpering on the ground, and his hand is shaking, and they make him look weak. And I didn't mind that. I was like thinking, oh yeah, finally you fuckers got him, or you doing something right. So then Allison, she's standing over Michael, and then Tommy looks at Allison, and he's like, we got this. So then she's like, she takes this butcher knife, she stabs Michael in the back, and evil is defeated. So then Allison walks away to go comfort her daughter Allison, or Karen walks away to comfort her daughter Allison. And at this moment, I'm like, this is what happens again. Every time you people get Michael on the ground, no one finishes him off. It's like when Karen, stomp on his neck until his neck breaks, until it caves in. Make sure he's dead. Decapitate that fool. Shoot him multiple times in the head or something. So then the mob is standing there after they get Michael on the ground. And I'm like, what the hell are you all doing? Why don't you just beat the shit out of him? Why are you just standing there? But then what I was thinking here is that you see Brackett come in, and he has his gun. And before they jump him, he makes that line about, hey, it's Halloween. Everyone's entitled to one good scare. So it's a nice callback to what he said in the 1978 movie. So what I was thinking in this moment as to why the mob is standing there, you see Brackett come in with his handgun, and he's approaching Michael very slowly. And so what I was thinking is that what they were doing is they're letting Brackett get the final blow in. Because Brackett has more emotional investment in this, in killing Michael, than Tommy or anybody else. Because they set up in the earlier scene in the hospital where Brackett was like, yeah, Michael killed my daughter 40 years ago, and he's been bitter about that ever since. So it made sense to where it's like, okay, Brackett is like, they must have worked out some sort of deal where it's like, okay, once we capture him, you will get the final, fatality. You will get the final kill. So then Brackett comes in there very slowly, and he's about to shoot Michael. He gets in there, he's about to shoot him in the head, and that's when Michael comes out, slashes his throat, and then the way they execute it, it's very artistic. Because clearly you can't, like I saw a comment online where someone said, this scene was a little odd because, he's surrounded by the mob. You can't show Michael, like, doing kung fu or anything because that's just not his character. So how are you going to be able to execute a scene where Michael is surrounded by a group of people and make it look believable while he's taking these people out? And I think they executed it pretty well because it's very artistic. Like, when you see the scene, you see these group of trucks with their headlights on, and it's kind of like a mosh pit circle. You see these headlights, and they're like illuminating the scene. And then so when you see this artistic approach where Michael gets back up, you just see the headlights in the background, and the rest of the screen is black. And then, yeah, clearly the mob is taking Michael on one at a time, because if they were to take him on at once, then if they were to take him on at the same time, it just wouldn't feel realistic. It would just feel a little odd. So it's like, Michael's slashing all of these guys up, he's killing them one by one, and Tommy's just standing there. He doesn't know what to do. And it's like, it may seem a little silly, but then when you look at Tommy throughout the progression of the film, he's really scared. Like, he may be putting on this front, like, oh yeah, it's night-night, Michael, I'm going to take out the boogeyman. But until this moment at the end, he's never faced him. He's never been face-to-face with Michael until the very end of the movie. So at the end, he freezes in place while he's witnessing all of his friends getting killed. He doesn't do anything. He just freezes. Throughout the whole movie, he was all obsessed about catching him and what he would do to Michael if he caught him. And then when he finally confronts him, it's like he freezes. He doesn't know what to do. So I believe that moment because throughout the whole movie, you can tell he's clearly scared and he has no idea what he would do if he'd face Michael. So he comes face to face with him, and he's witnessing all of his friends getting killed. And then once all of his friends are dead, that's when he goes to confront Michael. And it's a very artistic moment because then he's about to hit him, and you see the lights in the background. And he's about to attack him, and then Michael stops him, and then stabs him. And then it's kind of a sad moment because then, as Tommy is dying, he looks into the eyes of Michael. He looks into the eyes of the boogeyman. He looks into the eyes of this figure that has tormented him for 40 years. So it's like kind of, I don't want to say poetic. It's just sad. It's like this man, Tommy, who has been obsessed with Michael and been tormented by Michael for 40 years, to where it's like most likely affected his lifestyle, finally confronting this figure that has tormented him for so long, coming face to face with him, but then dying in the process because, you know, he wasn't brave enough, or I don't know. It's just kind of poetic. It's like he looks into the eyes of his tormentor as he's dying. You know, he looks into the eyes of Michael, and he slowly dies. And I love the artistic approach of it. And yeah, they could have done more with Tommy. They could have given him more to work with as a character. I really wish they had done that, but what they did and what they executed here, I thought was pretty well done. And then so Tommy dies. So they kill the majority of the legacy characters. Like Brackett's dead, Tommy's dead, Lonnie's dead, Allison's boyfriend's dead, Marion's dead. Only characters that survived are Hawkins, Laurie, Lindsay, and Allison. And so I'm pretty sure they'll set them up in Halloween Ends. And then another thing with Hawkins, he tells Laurie that I could have stopped the evil a long time ago, where he tells Laurie the story where they go back to the flashback in 1978 where Loomis was about to kill Michael. So this is another thing that they establish, I think, in this movie, where it's like, this is how you can kill Michael. You have to shoot him in the head. Because there are multiple scenes where they kind of set this up, where it's like Loomis, once they go back to 1978 where they captured Michael, and then the officers beat up Michael and he's like on the ground. Then Loomis is about to go for a headshot, and then Hawkins is like, well, I stopped Loomis from killing Michael because all I could think of was, oh, that's someone's son on the ground there, even though he's a fucking murderer. Loomis is about to shoot Michael, and Hawkins stops Loomis from shooting him. So they kind of set up that, okay, no one really can get a shot on Michael's head. So it's like, I feel like what they're setting up here is that if you shoot Michael in the head, you will kill him. Because when Allison comes in later with the pitchfork, she stomps on Michael's neck, and that injures him. But she doesn't finish the job. Then when he confronts the mob, Brackett is about to shoot Michael in the head, but he can't finish the job because he gets his throat slashed. So I feel like they're constantly setting up that if you shoot Michael in the head, that will kill him. So I feel like that's what's going to happen in Halloween Ends, is that someone's going to get a headshot on Michael and kill him. Because then now I remember even Karen, when she's being questioned or interviewed by the sheriff, she says she shot Michael in the face. When really she didn't shoot Michael in the face. She shot him like in the neck. So she illustrates that, okay, yeah, I shot him in the face and that injured him. When really, clearly, you see in 2018 when she shot him in the neck. So I really feel like they're illustrating here that the only way you can kill him is if you shoot him in the head. If you shoot him in the head, he's going to die. Because there are multiple situations where it's like they're going to shoot him in the head, but then somehow they're not able to. So I think they're establishing that here. So then, yeah, Michael, he ends up killing Tommy and the mob. And then, you know, Allison thinks Michael is dead because, you know, the mob were like, we're going to handle it. And the ending of the movie is where Allison is, you know, being comforted by her mom, Karen. And they're in front of the Myers house or something. And they're thinking the evil has been vanquished. It's dead. And in a very confusing scene, we see this apparition that is in front of this window that's in the Myers house, and it's a young Michael back when he killed his sister when he was 6. And so I was very confused by this, because then Karen is looking at this image, and it's this ghostly figure, and I'm like, how does Karen even know what Michael looked like back then? It's really bizarre. So I'm thinking, what's going on here? So then that lures her up into the bedroom where that image was. She goes in the room, and then she's staring out the window, and then Michael just appears behind her, and then kind of like, I want to say it's a homage to the original Psycho movie, because just the artistic approach of it kind of feels like Psycho to me, where there's like these little insert shots of her like raising her hand and being stabbed in the hand and in the face and all this kind of stuff. It felt like the Psycho shower scene to me, with the way it was executed. So then Michael's like slashing her, and she's like trying to block it, and he's just stabbing her. And then during that moment, we also hear Laurie giving this speech about how Michael gets his power and where he gets his power from, and how the more he kills, the more he transcends. And with that, to me, it's just like, how the hell do you even know like what motivates him and what keeps him going? But then the thing that I got from this moment is that they're explaining. I feel like Halloween Kills establishes Michael Myers as being supernatural, because this whole entire debate from the original movie was that, is he supernatural or is he just a human? No human being can be shot 6 times in the chest, fall off of a balcony, and just get up and walk away, and then bleed and constantly bleed out and not even be harmed. No normal person can get stabbed in the back with a pitchfork and then get their neck caved in and be like 60, 80 years old and still just keep walking around. Even in the 2018 movie, where there was that scene where Allison, Laurie, and Karen were in that little hidden bunker underneath the kitchen, and it was covered up by that cabinet, or whatever the hell you call it, like that countertop. And then Michael's just standing there and he's trying to lift it, and then they have this little insert shot where Michael makes this, like, he does this head tilt thing, and then he uses all of his strength and he moves this cabinet out of the way, or he moves the counter out of the way. You can't tell me that this man's not supernatural, and that's a huge debate. That's been a huge debate throughout this entire franchise until, in the Thorn trilogy they established that, well, where he gets his power from is the Cult of Thorn, but seeing as how this is a complete reimagining of Michael's origins, Thorn is not involved, so it's like, I remember reading an article for the 2018 movie, and what Danny McBride and David Gordon Green were trying to establish was that, okay, we want Michael to be more human. We don't want to establish him as a supernatural force. Which is like the ending of the original Halloween. Even John Carpenter, I think even in the 1978 movie, they kind of just wanted to make it like he's the boogeyman incarnate. We don't know if he's human or if he's supernatural. But then they kept saying he's not supernatural and all this kind of stuff. But no human being can go through what he goes through and not be supernatural. I always called bullshit on that. It's like, the man is supernatural. I don't care what anyone says. And I feel like in Halloween Kills, they established the fact that Michael Myers is supernatural. Because he gets shot in the chest multiple times. He falls to the ground. He gets stabbed in the back with a knife. And then he gets his ass beat with a bunch of weapons, and he just gets right back up like it's nothing. And so with Laurie's speech being implemented in the scene where, the mob is attacking him, it made me think in my mind, like, okay, this movie is establishing that Michael Myers is supernatural. So the franchise is finally confirming that Michael Myers is supernatural. And that's what I took from it. They're finally acknowledging that he's supernatural. That's what I got from it. So Laurie gives this speech about Michael and him being supernatural, and then Michael kills Laurie's daughter Karen, and Karen dies, and I love the ending because, Michael's standing there, and you see this shot of Laurie looking out she's looking out this window in the hospital, and it's being intercut with Karen dying. So the end of this movie, Michael Myers escapes. Like, they don't catch him, they don't stop him, they don't kill him. He just escapes. He's gone out there in the ether somewhere. While at the same time, it's like setting up the next movie, because it's like Laurie doesn't know that her daughter's dead. And I pretty much assume, like, in Halloween Ends, when Laurie's going to be dealing with the grief of that. I truly feel like in Halloween Ends, they're setting up that Hawkins and Laurie are going to get together. But then Hawkins, he's going to be like in a wheelchair or something, because in Halloween 2018, the dude got stabbed in the neck and then he got run over by a car. So he can't just be up and walking around. Like, I'm pretty sure he'll probably be in a wheelchair or something in the next movie. Because I heard in Halloween Ends, they're going to skip ahead 4 years later. Which I'm excited for Halloween Ends, because it's like, with everything that they set up here and how this movie ends, I'm very excited. I'm very excited because it's just like, yeah, like once Lori finds out that her daughter Karen died, that's really going to send her over the edge. Like, you think that what happened in 1978 is what pushed her. Halloween Ends, man, she's going to be a completely different person. Like, I can't wait to see how Lori reacts to that whole situation. You know, like, I love the ending that Halloween Kills because it sets up Halloween Ends perfectly, and it's its own thing where it's like the original 1978 movie where Michael, he's just a psychopathic killer with no rhyme or reason for what he's doing. He like it's basically how Officer Hawkins described it. He's like, Michael is a 6-year-old child with an animal like mentality, you know, to where it's like there's no rhyme or reason for what he's doing. He's just pure evil, and I like that Halloween Kills set Michael up that way. You know, where he's just an evil force that's just out there somewhere, and you never know where he's going to appear. So I like that, and I like the ending to this of how they like. I'm telling you, we have no idea how Laurie's gonna react to that. Like, I'm really curious to how they play out Laurie Strode in the next movie. Just with dealing with everything that she's dealt with, like dealing with all that trauma. Like, yeah, I think people have praised the Halloween 2018 movie for dealing with Laurie Strode's trauma in a realistic way. I kind of felt it was over the top a little bit because with the whole Home Alone thing at the end, but then it made sense because then it's like, you know, they established that, you know, Karen was working on this since she was a child, and so it's a very elaborate trap, you know, because they've been working on it for like years. And so Laurie's been obsessed with Michael this whole time to where it's destroyed her relationship with her daughter. To where by the end of the 2018 film, you know, when Karen realizes that Michael is a serious threat, she wants to protect her mother in Halloween Kills. And then, you know, Karen dies. And then now Laurie's going to realize that her daughter's dead. And that's just going to, like, project her, like, just catapult her into some other character who has to deal with even more trauma. Like, I really feel like if Halloween Ends is going to pick up 4 years after the events of the previous two movies, Laurie Strode is going to be in a completely different mind state. Like, I feel like if Laurie doesn't go off the deep end and Halloween Ends to the point where it's like, I feel if Hawkins and her do get together, Hawkins will ground her a little bit more, you know, and like be like a shoulder to cry on and be like, my daughter's dead. But her granddaughter's still alive, though. But then Allison, her being jacked up about her dad dying, she's really going to be jacked up about her mother dying. Like, I just can't wait to see the dynamic angle that they come up with for Jamie Lee Curtis and Halloween Ends, because just dealing with, you know, like I said, with the trauma of 1978 bleeding into the 2018 film, then Halloween Kills where her daughter dies, and that bleeding into Halloween Ends, it's like, the Laurie Strode character, man, she's... Ooh, if she doesn't go off the deep end or just like I said, I assume her and Hawkins are going to get together. And Laurie probably will go a little crazy, but Hawkins will probably be the grounding factor for her to where he keeps her grounded. You know, and then who knows what's going to happen with Allison. Like, Allison and Hawkins and Laurie are probably going to be in a bunker somewhere, hunkering down until, you know, next Halloween or something. But I'm really excited for Halloween Ends after experiencing Halloween Kills. I really enjoyed Halloween Kills. I still think it's a great movie. Just with its atmospheric approach, with, you know, the cinematography and the costume design of Michael looks fantastic, and Michael is more intimidating and scary than he has ever been in the Halloween franchise to me. Just the brutality of the kills in here. A lot of the scenes made me cringe. You know, like when a lady gets stabbed in the throat, I was holding my own neck like, holy shit. When the guy gets his eyes popped out, I was holding my face like, oh my God. I was saying like, Jesus Christ, like this shit is really intense. So I enjoyed this movie through and through. Like, I'd say my favorite kill in the movie is when the lady, you know, is watching her husband die. Like, that whole entire sequence from beginning to end, especially the way that sequence ends, is just so horrific that it stays with me. And then my other favorite kill in the movie is when the guy gets his eyes popped out. And then my third favorite sequence or kill in the movie is the scene when they're all trapped in the car. I thought the tension and suspense in that scene was very well executed. And so I love the film from a technical approach. I love the performances, the set design, the musical cues. I just love this movie all across the board, regardless of the goofy aspects that are in the film. Like, there's a lot of goofiness in the movie, like the hospital sequence, with them chasing the mental patient is a little over the top and a little melodramatic, but I still accepted it and fell into it and still was just riding along the wave. I enjoyed all the chaos in the hospital sequence. I was immersed in that hospital sequence with all the chaos. I loved it. And, with just Michael being a brute force and just killing people left and right with no rhyme or reason, I'm like, this is the Michael I've been waiting for. That's what Michael is just an evil figure out there with no rhyme or reason. And I'm like, this is how you do Michael. Even though I do wish they had kept him lurking in the shadows a bit more. But even though they didn't do that, I accepted I accepted what they delivered here, and I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. It was just like a very immersive experience for me from beginning to end. Even though I did feel that there were some goofy moments within the film that did take me out of the experience, but like I said, when those goofy moments happen, there's always something else that counters that, and it sucks me right back into the experience. So it's like 50-50 for me. It's like, yep, there's some goofy stuff in here, but the suspenseful nature of these scenes and how they're executed just really sucked me into the movie as a whole, to where by the end of it, I'm completely satisfied. And I'd watch this movie again multiple times, again and again, and I'm just never bored. I'm excited, and even though we don't have a main character to follow, we're following all these different characters, so there's no real driving force in this movie other than witnessing Michael kill all these people. I still had fun with the movie, and I still accepted it for what it was. It's just a fun thrill ride Halloween movie with Michael killing people, and it's like you establish this town of Haddonfield, which is what we never really got before in a Halloween movie. We see the town of Haddonfield rallying together, trying to stop this evil. It may be a little over the top. They could have probably used some more development with a couple of the characters to establish them more as human beings and trapped in this tragic situation. But what I think the film delivered worked for me for the most part, even though I do wish there was a little bit more development. Other than that, like, I really enjoyed this movie. It is a great movie. It's a great Halloween movie. I still think it's just as good as the original Halloween movie, even though it may not have the same aesthetic approach as the original movie. I still accepted this movie for what it was. It's called Halloween Kills, so what did you expect? Even though I did want something else, what it gave me, I accepted. That's all I have to say. Can't wait for Halloween Ends. I'm excited. Hopefully, they merge these two movies together. Hopefully, they take the 2018 movie, which did have that atmospheric approach of the 1978 movie where Michael's lurking in the shadows and killing people, behind the screen, or, behind the scenes and everything, and then bringing the brutality of Halloween Kills and merging all that together. Hopefully that's what Halloween Ends does. Because even though I didn't care for 2018, I think Halloween Kills, for me, makes Halloween 2018 a richer film. And I can't wait for the experience of watching the 1978 movie, and then watching the 2018 movie, and then watching Halloween Kills, and then watching Halloween Ends back to back. Because I truly feel like Halloween Kills makes Halloween 2018 a richer film. It makes me enjoy 2018 even more with just these little things that they do in Halloween Kills. So I'm excited. I'm very excited for Halloween Ends. Very, very excited. Completely satisfied. Can't wait. That's all I have to say.